Runecraft is a sacred power that has endured since the dawn of mankind. Those born into its grace possess a supernatural might that defies the natural order, marking them as the predestined leaders of all living things. In ancient times, the people hailed this power as a divine miracle, a blessing bestowed upon the world by the gods themselves. Yet among the countless runes, there exists one exception, the Asura rune. Reviled as a singular curse, it has been hunted without prejudice, and without a shred of mercy throughout history. Those born with this mark bring ruin, without fail, upon themselves and everyone they touch. 7 years after this incident, in a small village, a few thugs are wandering, asking the villagers, but they didn't know anything. Why on earth would the Asura rune be in such a place? Combed through every shack in this tiny village, so he should get lost now. The thugs relent, angry that these old geezers are so loud, and they go back to their employer, telling him that they've searched far and wide, but they have found nothing. They say there aren't any runecasters in this entire region. The employer just sighs wearily and tells his bald employee to come closer a bit. With that, he begins to drain him of blood before killing him instantly. He apologizes for letting them go on a fruitless endeavor. There's no way the lot of them, with no runecraft or mana, could ever find it. However, he can smell it, that special sweet reek of ruin. In that same village, Van and Linda are called out as the thugs are gone, so they can come out now. Linda is glad to have fresh air once again, and Van lets out a sigh of relief, apologizing once again as he made those weird people come because of him. The man who rescued him says that nobody cares about that. With that note that they are both covered in dust, come to think of it. They always hide down there, don't they? Linda explains that Van likes it there, and he admits as such. This is where they saved him on that day 7 years ago, after all. So this place is his favorite place in this whole village. The man immediately toys around with calling him a precious kid, and also asks how the wedding prep is going. The woman notes that they are mostly done. They start as soon as the sun sets. Sure enough, when the sun does set, they all gather around a big fire, putting on their best for a very special moment. The officiant tells Van and Linda that from this day forth, they are now husband and wife. They should say a few words about their vows in front of everyone. Linda just puts her fist up and screams that she'll make sure he's dry and happy so that he forgets how to cry. That's it. Everyone cheers for her, as she's always been eccentric. But Van just apologizes for putting everyone in a tough spot again today because of him. At the villages he passed through in the past, plague, war, massacres, there have always been disasters that never ended. Wherever he went, the final screams of pain and this despair followed. He could not settle down, no matter where he went. If they hadn't taken him in that day, 7 years ago, he would have already been dead. So he still doesn't really know if it's okay for someone with the Asura rune like him to be here. Before he can say anything more, Linda just punches the ever-living shit out of him, making him fall down. If they were scared of that, they would have never even saved him when they first met 7 years ago. It would be a lie to say they were not worried. But when a real crisis hit the village after that, he was the one who protected them, not anyone else. They decided they should not worry anymore. Even if another crisis comes, they'll get through it together, just like that day. The villagers agree they'll protect him with their lives if they have to, but he is too soft for Linda at this point. Linda's parents know that they should finish the wedding now, and they both exchange one last vow before kissing each other. The Runecraft mage begins to laugh as he is getting really teary-eyed out here. Suddenly, the entire area where the wedding was taking place blew up in a green hue, covering everything in darkness. Van opens his eyes, which have been closed thanks to the light, and sees what he has always seen in the past: destruction and despair all around him. His mind begins to shatter, and he screams as he falls on the ground. He wonders what happened, and why it happened. His mind is not able to accept the death in front of him. Even Parley and Kara, they're all dead. But what is this? Why? Why did it happen? Before he can despair further, the Runecraft mage appears behind him, grinning, and then makes him skid across the ground before he stops in a nearby tree roughly. As he walks with Linda toward him, he tells him to hide well, as his Asura rune might show. If he is all hidden, then he will come. Vaughn asks who he is, and why he is doing this to them, but the Runecraft mage tells him he doesn't need to know. He has special business with him, the Asura rune he was born with. Someone else needs that rune's true ruin to be awakened. First things first, survivors are usually a pain to deal with, so he wiped out every nearby village around too. He should say that it's nothing personal, right? He's just doing what he was told, so he shouldn't hate him too much. This is a pocket dimension prison prepared for him by that very special person in there. 1,000 years, or 10,000 will pass in just a few moments. Time doesn't mean a thing in that place, although he will let him out when the time comes, so he should be good and wait. Not that even he knows when that will be. Before he is engulfed in prison, he sees Linda mouthing off something that makes him cry, even harder than before. Eventually, he wakes up in a bloody and violent place. He wanted to believe not everything was because of a single damn rune, but there was never really a way out from the beginning. In the end, his very existence only ever brought ruin and death from the moment he was born. There was never a way to escape this fate of his. If he had just accepted fate a little earlier, would everyone he loved have lived? Just this once, he allowed himself to dream, to think that things might have been different, that maybe he could have lived a normal life, but that's why they died. His vain hope, his greedy wishes of a normal life, killed everyone. He apologizes again and again and again, until he can't think of anything else, but also begs them not to forgive him. As he continues sitting, he wonders, if a god exists, why would he inflict such a cruel fate on him alone? What good are gods now? He is too tired, and it hurts so much. He doesn't want to live anymore, so he just wants to die as peacefully as he can. However, his mind immediately goes to what Linda mouthed before he got sucked into the prison, that it's not his fault, and that she loves him forever. This causes him to wake up from his self-inflicted death, and he starts to hate himself, as this is all his fault. It was all his fault. And yet what happens now? Peace, the voice says. How dare it? He thinks he has the right to end it. He does not get to die just yet. He still has something left to do. This feeling that has been growing steadily, and is now consuming him entirely. Revenge. The Asura rune inevitably only brings ruin, but he does not care anymore. There is no ruin worse than this. That Runecraft mage said, there's someone who needs the ruin he carries, so he will make them feel it fully. He will show them what true ruin really feels like. He begs everyone to give him just a little more time, as dying can wait until he gets his revenge. To do that, he will have to break out of this pocket dimension. The fake vestiges of the people he killed begin charging at him, claiming that they died because of him. Van doesn't care though, whether it takes 1,000 or 10,000 years. He will have his revenge. He swears it. With that, 200 years pass, and then 400, 600, and he still keeps doing the same thing, fighting. The boy who would walk the Asura's path danced within ruin, yet he still did not know the true hidden power within the Asura rune. Before long, on the eve of the 1,000 years, as he fights an incredibly powerful enemy, he begins to shift. He is drenched in blood at the bottom of hell. Endless agony befalls him, yet the fire of vengeance in his heart is not quenched. The giant beast he is fighting smashes his fists into the ground, pummeling him into the dirt without prejudice, killing him at last. Perhaps he is able to rest. However, something from the past appears in his mind. He asked Linda what her dream was. She said it was to marry him and become his wife. After that, not too much and not too little. One son, maybe one daughter, and a home where they can always come back to, smiling, and a fence around the family home to keep everyone safe. That's her dream. Unfortunately for him, this was the catalyst from the boy who had suffered for millennia. The true power of ruin is now unleashed. The Asura rune seeps out of him, and all the anguish and despair he has ever felt transform into incredible power, one that resembles a nuke. This is the true power of Asura, the god of ruin. Power had awakened that day. Would he have been able to save everyone? It must be so, right? He looks at the mighty creature in front of him and punches the air so hard it sends it flying into the dirt. But he doesn't stop there. As he jumps in the air and uses his first manifested armament, the Annihilation Fist, a gauntlet imbued with the power to annihilate matter on a particle level, he smashes this fist into the beast's head with so much force that it thunders throughout the entire hellscape, making it recoil backwards. That day, in that same mountain range where the village was, a few thugs are shaking people down, but since they don't have any money, they will be generous and take only a few organs. Suddenly though, Van appears as he wants to ask something. What year is it now? The bandit leader is confused at first, but then pats him on the head with a manic grin and notes that he is a rather curious young man. Why does he ask? Van thinks about it, as a thug silently goes behind him, and the bandit leader gives him the signal, making him attack Van, but his weapon just breaks on his head. It appears that only 5 years have passed in the mortal world, right? Everyone is confused about what just happened, and in response, Van unleashes a bunch of spikes toward everyone, killing them instantly, and summons his fist, once again annihilating the leader by shattering him in pieces. One of the thugs is in complete shock. Van has left him alive strategically, as he wants to ask him just a few things. This is the continent of Atun. Since ancient times, countless kingdoms have been founded with the power of Runecraft. Among them, the one praised as the greatest kingdom in the history of Atun is the Zoe Kingdom. It has dominated the continent as a hegemon for many, many years, relying solely on its overwhelming strength. Vaughn understands, so he is saying that the clothes this bastard was wearing are only worn by sorcerers affiliated with the royal family of the Zoe Kingdom, and he has actually seen him in the past. The bandit confirms as such. He is extremely serious. How could he possibly lie in this situation? Van has tied him up upside down in a tree and tells him to continue speaking, so the bandit adamantly does so. 5 years ago, a mercenary named Kesarak, who had personal contact with Sir Degiol, the owner of their bandit den, made a request for them, saying that it came from a big shot. He said it wasn't anything special, just finding someone and clearing out a few villages. He would pay lots of money, so he thought this was an easy job to do. He said it was a big shot, but they never thought it would be a sorcerer from the Zoe Kingdom. From their side, there was no reason to refuse, so they accepted immediately. After all, they were bandits, so it wasn't a big deal, right? They cleared them off without a single trace. It was tough to burn all the corpses, because there were so many, so they had to work pretty hard that day. After finishing the job, the sorcerer with the purple head left neatly after paying the money, of course. Among the corpses, was there a girl with orange short hair? The bandit confirms as such. She caught his eye instantly. That corpse was probably burned too. Her face was really pretty, so it was a real shame she died that way. If she had been sold as a slave, she would have fetched a really high price. Suddenly Van remembers the ones he loved, and he naturally takes his anger out on the bandit, killing him instantly. At the Degiol mountain hideout, the bandits are moving a bunch of slaves, pleased to see that they are looking so fresh, and they are pretty rebellious too. The livelier they are, the better they sell anyway, so it's good for them. Suddenly someone knocks at the gate. It's the guy who Van killed last, noting that he's brought drinks, so he should open quickly. As he opens the door though, Van drops the head he was holding, and just punches the guard's head off cleanly. The other guard tries to retaliate in an instant, but Van just blocks the strike, causing the bandit to try and pummel him again and again. Van decides to dodge the incoming strikes before charging up his fist and telling the bastard to shut up with that. He takes them both out, and he begins walking inside, thinking that they're all insignificant pests, and they decided to play bandit, huh? He puts the people he killed down and asks the others where their leader is. As he wants to talk, he has something to ask after all. The bandits wonder if he has lost his mind or something. Does he have no fear? Does he even know where he is? Suddenly though, Degiol himself tells them to step back and get lost if they do not want to die. This guy is a sorcerer with Runecraft, just like him, so this is not an easy opponent. He asks Van what he wants from him, and Van explains that 5 years ago, didn't a sorcerer from the Zoe Kingdom ask them to do a job? A mercenary called Kesarak arranged the meeting. Degiol is surprised he figured out so much from just his men. So what is it that he wants specifically? Vaughn just wants him to tell where that bastard Kesarak is, then he will spare them all. Degiol is impressed. Well, he will tell him where his body will be strung, that is. He tries to punch Van with his power, but he simply meets his strike and pushes him back. Degiol notes that if he wants to lie about sparing them, then wouldn't it be wise to hide the magic power that is covered in killing intent first? He will be the one to die here today. This guy has the blade rune, which arms one's entire body with sharp, hard blades. Van, who has been thrown back, expected as such. It's not easy to solve things through just conversation, right? Before Degiol can even notice, he charges in again and unleashes a devastating gut punch that makes Degiol cough blood. However, he does not relent and charges more power into his fist before trying to crash it on Van, but he just dodges. Seeing that he is acting like a rat, Degiol retreats slightly and begins spinning around, unleashing a bunch of spikes everywhere. Even if he is young, a sorcerer is still a sorcerer. From now on, he will not go easy on him anymore. He wonders how he will feel when he gets torn apart. He probably won't be able to move a single step. However, Vaughn simply walks through the Valley of Blades, shocking him. How can he just let himself be cut like that? He tells him to stop, making him laugh. This kind of itch, these little scabs and scratches, cannot be considered true pain. Degiol appreciates how passionate he is, so he changes tactics. He raises himself high in the air before putting all of his power into his fist, making it much larger and much more deadly. He wonders if he can survive something like this. But Van knows that at best his skin is peeled off while he will still live. The only thing he needs to do is cut off his nerves. This is shallow. This level of pain is way too shallow. The swamp he fell into that day, the hellscape he survived, could never be compared to this shallow experience. He meets Degiol's punch with one of his own, and pushes so hard that it gives the bastard no time to react, and kills him instantly with the punch that goes even through the mountain, clearing up the sky with a rather beautiful circle. Van lets out a sigh of relief. He hasn't pushed himself that far in a long time, but now they shall pick up where they left off. Before long, most of the bandits are killed. He has naturally left one alive to speak. So this bastard called Kesarak is in the Nordia kingdom right now. The bandit confirms as such. He vows that he is speaking the truth, but also wonders if he will spare him as promised. Vaughn wonders when he ever promised such a thing, scaring the bandit. But then he laughs, claiming that it was just a joke. The bandit sheepishly laughs too, thinking that it was pretty funny, but before he can excuse himself, Van just kills him. He meant sparing him was a joke. Why was he even laughing? That night, as he begins walking, he thinks that if he had his way, he would just go and invade the Zoe kingdom right now. But he can't just believe these bandits and act. Even if it takes him some time, he will need to meet that bastard Kesarak and confirm it himself. So he begs everyone to wait just a bit longer. In return, this is his small present. Because he lacks any artistic sense, even if they don't like it, they should be satisfied with this for now. After all, this is just a small achievement in the revenge that will be coming. He throws a torch, burning the effigy of corpses behind him, and thinks that it's time to go to the Nordia kingdom. He makes his way to Nordia kingdom with relative ease, and on the Guild Street, in a very, very dark alleyway, he punches out the last of the thugs he met. The last guy, who is barely conscious, explains that Anna Dalton knows everything in this city. Van understands, but they really should have started talking from the beginning. Well, he should thank them for the info, right? At least they were able to give it out through their screams. For his next step, he will have to find out where that woman is. In a situation like this, he cannot afford to delay even for a moment, because there's no guarantee that something like yesterday won't happen again. The day before this, his magic power suddenly began to run wild like crazy, but nothing like this happened while he was locked up. Magic power is an unknown particle that cannot be seen with the naked eye, but it is spread throughout the entire universe. A person who accumulates this magic power floating in the air within their body and manifests the ability of Runecraft through the accumulated magic power is called a sorcerer. In other words, the sorcerer's body is a vessel that holds magic power. If the magic power runs wild within the sorcerer's body, he will die. If this continues, Vaughn knows that his body will explode along with his magic power. He must seal it immediately to stop the rampage. That is how he managed to stop himself from dying, although barely, and his hair grew short too. For some reason, since he's sealed most of his magic, he can use a very small amount for now. If he continues to abuse his magic power, then it won't end with just his hair burning. In order to fully use the sealed magic, he must find out why the rampage happened in the first place. Until then, he has no choice but to get used to this small amount of power he has available. He continues walking through an alley, but suddenly bumps into someone. Noting that they are in the way so he can't get past him, the man, who is actually 18 years old, explains that Madame Anna Dalton is currently using this entire area, so he should go back. Van understands he should have said so earlier. It seems that he found the right place after all. With that, he punches the bouncer away, not to kill him, but simply to knock him out. With that, he walks inside of the place, telling him to stay asleep for just a bit. As he enters, he is met with 3 people who wonder who he is. They told the owner not to receive any guests today. What is that bouncer even doing, not being able to stop a kid like him? He explains that he is looking for a mercenary named Kesarak. He heard that there's someone here who knows that bastard. Some woman is surprised to think someone would dare go around calling Sir Kesarak by his name. Does he know that he will likely die without anyone knowing if he continues like this? Vaughn doesn't pay them any mind, but seeing her reaction, it seems like he's found the right person. He wants to know everything about him, and Anna thinks that he really is a crazy bastard and tells her guardian to rip off his mouth and bring it to her. This is Anna Dalton, Nordia Kingdom's #1 black market information broker. Her guards immediately agree and begin surging with mighty power, transforming their bodies completely until they all look straight out of a furry convention. With that, they swiftly charge at Van, who just tightens his bandages and notes that he wanted to finish this through conversation. Has that art been lost in the 5 years he's been gone? He punches one of them in the chin before pushing him away with a punch to the chest. Another tries to take him by surprise from the side, and the third one tries to pounce on him as he jumps away, but he is able to dodge all of their strikes, leaving them a bit puzzled and in awe. With that, he jumps in, unleashing some of his power so that his punch, which goes through one of them, goes through both of them, and even through the ceiling, making the clouds disperse again. He turns to Anna and asks if she wishes to have a peaceful conversation now. Now she understands. He's a sorcerer. Not just any young fool, huh? But what should she do? Sir Kesarak isn't here anymore. Anna gets up slowly, noting that she is someone who sells information for a living. She can't just give that out unless she is paid. Van thinks they're having a misunderstanding right now. He is not a murderer. They came running at him, trying to kill him, so he just killed them. If she provides information, then he is willing to pay a fair price. Anna thinks that information about Kesarak, including his current movements, would run him 10,000 gold. That's more than a fair price for such information. Van thinks that's a large sum. He never really realized it would be this expensive. Anna just shrugs. If he doesn't have any money, she can't just give out information for free. With that, Van just walks away. She just needs money, right? She should wait patiently for a while. Anna is a bit amused and asks if he has a way to get money. But why is he looking for him anyway? With such a terrifying gaze, too. Did Kesarak kill his family or something? Van stops himself from pushing the door open and tells her to mind her own business before he decides to get that information for free. Anna just laughs as he leaves, as he is rather scary when he is mad. On the same mercenary street, Van completes his mercenary registration and immediately asks when work will start. The clerk tells him that the mercenary work itself is quick, but it usually takes some time for rookies because experienced veterans are assigned first. Van understands it might take longer than expected, but it doesn't really matter. He needs a way to make money anyway. If necessary, he had thought of threatening her to get the information he needed. However, that woman was no ordinary person, so there's no point in unnecessarily increasing his enemies. Suddenly, a woman arrives, claiming that she wants to request a mercenary job, but it has to be someone with no experience. The clerk is pleased to hear that, as the person right next to her just registered as one. Van confirms as such. He is the rookie who just registered, and the woman is pleased. Her request is rather simple. He just has to take responsibility for one night. This is Leon, 18 years old, and Van and the clerk just kinda stare for a while before Van calls her a crazy woman, and the clerk suggests a brothel if she wishes to get something like that. Leon explains that it's a misunderstanding. She was just trying to hire an escort, but Van just walks away, not interested in being any kind of thing for her. Leon tries to stop him, noting that he should listen to the compensation first, and then make a decision. Suddenly someone else approaches, a much larger brute, and asks how much the pay is. Leon explains that it's 10,000 gold, making Van stop in his steps. She apologizes to the man, but she can't hire a veteran mercenary with a well-known face like his to do it properly, so she should reconsider. He is much better than that kid would be, both in and out of combat. He begins grabbing her, finding it frustrating that he is trying to give her help, but she doesn't want it. Suddenly Van approaches, calling him garbage and telling him to get his hands off her, his precious employee, as filthy trash hands like his do not deserve that graceful touch. That night, somewhere in a dark forest, a village is being overrun by a man pleading with the bandits to at least spare his son. Naturally, they do not, and they report to their leader that these were just peasant houses, nothing worth cash. However, if they harvest the organs, the take should be decent. What do? Their leader tells them to do as they like, but more importantly, they should remember the job they took yesterday. They are snatching up the daughter of the Leon household, right? The support confirms as such, so the bandit leader tells him to pick the 3 best men and keep them on standby at all times. They should also hang this guy up and head out right away. The support net confirms as such, so he will have them on standby immediately before he can move, though he suddenly gets a smack from the leader and asks if he messed something up. Merkel says it's not that. It's just that one of these people, strung up alone, won't satisfy him at all. If they dissect him the same exact way and hang him next to him, it would be just perfect. The subordinate can't do anything to disobey, even if he wanted to, and the night is filled with his horrified screams. Inside the tavern, Van eats with Leon, who eventually smashes her fist on the table, being very unsatisfied with something. Van asks what it is. Does the food not suit her taste? Leon wonders who could swallow food in a situation like this, and he should also stop using that person as a chair. Van is a little confused that she wants to try sitting on him, but Leon says it's not that. She just wants to let him go. She thinks that this guy is a bit rough but extremely skilled, considering he beat up a seasoned mercenary. He is also a newbie with no paper trail, exactly the kind of merc she wanted. Van thinks the person's seat was comfortable, but Leon tells him not to use people as objects. Van understands and notes that they should go back to business. She hired him as an escort, so how far is he taking her exactly? She explains that they will go to the border of the Uhuana kingdom. They'll cut through the forest, so they'll be getting there in a day. Van doesn't understand why she would spend 10,000 gold on a simple escort. He's got a bad feeling this ties into something dangerous, like a scion of a powerful family house or a fugitive. He is not doubting her identity, but just in case, Leon explains that she is simply the only daughter of a somewhat wealthy family, and her father just dotes on her terribly. Van really doesn't know what to think about that, but when Leon notes that if he's too suspicious, she'll go somewhere else, he immediately sits back down. Suspicious. How could he be so rude to his precious customer? He asks when they will depart, and she says the sooner the better. So Van tells her that they will go right now, as he wouldn't want to waste his client's valuable time, right? She agrees, and with that, they make their way through the Gaseoso Mountains. As they continue walking, Leon notes that they are about halfway there, and she's also glad that this has been peaceful so far. So good. At this rate, they will reach safety soon enough. Perhaps hiring a merc was too much. Suddenly though, Van puts a hand up and tells her to hold it, as he definitely felt something, which was mana. He also heightens his senses and hears footsteps springing toward them. 3, 4, and one of them, especially dangerous, a sorcerer. He can see that sorcerer, but Merkel just unleashes a strike towards him and notes that picking is a bad habit. Suddenly Van is almost overwhelmed by a strike, and he grabs Leon before dashing away from the blast. Merkel lands gently and tells his men to capture Leon's daughter alive. The other guy can die. Leon asks what this is, and Van guesses it was just a warning. The real strikes are probably coming. Sure enough, from his right side, the 3 assassins appear, with 2 holding Van in place, while the other goes for Leon. Seeing this, Van deflects the strikes of the 2 assassins, and goes for the one who tried to grab Leon, smashing his foot into his belly roughly. With that, as the other 2 assassins try to get him, he dashes away and grabs Leon again, putting her near a tree, a more secure position. He sighs and tells Leon that from this moment on, under no circumstances will she step from behind him. Leon immediately agrees, seeing that he is getting rather serious, and then asks who they are. Are they bandits, perhaps? The assassins tell him to leave the woman and back away quietly. If he does that, they will let him go. Van tells them that he will if they have 10,000 gold. The assassins call him a fool and charge in, using their combined powers and dual strikes to try and overwhelm Van, but no matter how hard they try, just with his fists alone, he begins countering each attack, not one of them actually grazing him. The dangerous assassins back away slightly. They were on edge, thinking he was a rune caster. But is he just a brat? Van asks where this came from. He was just being careful, but apparently that was needless. He did not expect them to be so stupid. Just with a bit of his power unleashed, he dashes in and unleashes a flurry of blows, which the 2 assassins immediately try to counter. But the sheer force Van is exuding blasts them away, soon enough shattering them into pieces like porcelain, creating a blast to the forest that permeates throughout, leaving only their feet behind. Van thinks that they are just a bunch of clowns, and Leon is shocked. This guy looks much younger than her, so how can he do something like that? If her father saw this, he would be shocked and thrilled at the same time. Merkel comes out of hiding, noting that rune casters often gauge each other's mana, and the amount of mana often matches the caster's skill. Van wonders how long he would stay hiding. Finally, he shows himself. Merkel was not done. That is why he is still just a kid. So how does he have mana on par with his? Was he born with it? Maybe he should dissect him first, since a caster like him must have splendid organs. This is the mad anatomist Merkel. He is the leader of the criminal gang. Merkel Gang. Big shock. They are perpetrators of murder, kidnapping, human trafficking, and other heinous crimes. He is pretty merciful though, so if he hands that woman over nicely, he will dissect him without pain. Van tells him to buzz off, so Merkel just tells him to die, unleashing a mighty strike. Van grabs Leon's attention, and notes that about her being an ordinary merchant's daughter. That was a very big lie, wasn't it? Leon tries to come up with an excuse, but Van just grabs her and tells her to save it. He puts her in front of the strike, making her cheeks blow out, and Merkel is pretty shocked too by what he is seeing, and by the fact that Van holds no remorse at all. After Merkel is barely able to redirect the strike, both Leon and he scream out, noting that they almost died. Merkel asks if he's not her bodyguard, and Leon agrees. He's a damn lunatic. She is his employer. Van is filtering all of that out though. He saw that twist in direction, in that fleeting instant, when he put Leon in front. This guy is a sorcerer skilled in the manipulation of mana. It seems his goal isn't to kill his employer but to capture her alive. Is he trying to kidnap her? Maybe that's it. He notes that he will overlook this transgression this time, even though Leon notes that he basically just tried to kill her. Van once again ignores her and tells her to stop arguing. He is going to throw her now. She will land safely on her own and stay hidden like a mouse, right? Leon agrees, but before she can wonder what she means by throw, Van grabs her by the top of her robe and throws her away like a quarterback, making her whistle through the air. Merkel asks what he thinks he's doing and jumps away, trying to rush toward Leon, but Van has just grabbed his foot before he can make it and holds him in place, unleashing a devastating punch that allows him to move in with another deadly uppercut. This makes Merkel skid on the ground and laugh audibly. Van is confused. He is sure that those strikes landed. However, it feels like they were blocked by something. Merkel has the psychokinesis rune, which manipulates an object's physical state using mana, the ability to discharge power in an instantaneous burst, like a shockwave. He tries to take Van out with one of these blasts, but dodges, and Merkel takes advantage of this by rushing in with a punch, which Van has to block. He knows that hand-to-hand combat is dangerous, considering this guy has a psychokinetic energy ability. However, there is nothing else he can do. He steals himself onto the ground and unleashes another punch, which Merkel blocks. He tries to grab Van, but he dodges, and instead unleashes a blast, which does not appear to have hurt Van at all. He tries to hit him again, but he is met by his formidable defense, capable of blocking by forming psychokinetic energy into a shield. Seeing this, Van backs away, thinking that this is a rather annoying runecraft art. Merkel tells him that it's useless. In mana, they may be similar, but the abilities of their runes are worlds apart. If he comes under him, he will take him in, even right now. He doesn't know what that woman is paying him, but he could earn several times that amount with him, and much faster. Van says he was promised 10,000 gold, making Merkel laugh. They can make that kind of chump change by hitting just 2 villages. He is getting paid far too little for his skills. Van asks if he said that they are hitting villages, and Merkel confirms as such. They do assassinations, kidnapping, robbery, human trafficking, do it all. No questions asked. That's their motto, and they make a killing while doing it too. So does it sound tempting? In response, Van just smiles, and Merkel thinks that this is an agreement. He knew it. His judgment of character is perfect. He'd like to hear about it, wouldn't he? Van disagrees. He is laughing at him for being so pathetic to think he was actually having a conversation with a vermin dog like him. He has made up his mind now. He is going to tear him limb from limb until he becomes unrecognizable to the rest of his subordinates. Van begins pummeling his barrier, but he doesn't get it. He told him that he cannot break through. Van, however, doesn't care and keeps pressing the attack, unleashing 100 strikes in just 1 second, until eventually he makes a crack and actually shatters the kinetic shield, shocking Merkel. With that, he unleashes a devastating punch to his arm, tearing it off completely, before diverting his force and punching him in the chest, making Merkel fly away. After he lands, he notes that he is no longer interested in harvesting his organs. This will not hold back anymore. This is the price for scorning his mercy. He unleashes all of his power into himself, making the ground shatter around him as he uses the psychotechnic blood strike. As that strike flies, it thunders through the mountain, draping it in an energetic red hue. However, somehow Van is keeping it steady and not getting hurt at all, confusing Merkel. He was sure they had similar mana levels, so how on earth is he withstanding his psychokinesis? Van laughs. He thought they were on similar levels. He really is an idiotic bastard. He suddenly unleashes a bit more of his mana, shocking Merkel as he has never seen anything like it. This is the mana of a monster. Van is, however, done playing. He tells him that he will fall into hell, and they will meet each other there once again. With that, he unleashes the devastating Annihilation Fist, hitting Merkel a bunch of times before unleashing one final strike that goes through his chest. Van simply grabs his bandages and ties them up on his hands, letting Merkel suffer the consequences of his strike and blow up in a much brighter and much more powerful force. Now it's time for him to fetch his little employer. Pattern magic. It ranges from the power to arm the entire body with blades, the power to transcend space and time, and even the power to split the earth and pierce through mountains with ease, to defy the laws of the universe and surpass the laws of physics themselves. These supernatural powers defy all, no reasoning. Among all those countless pattern magics, there exists the one known in history as the worst pattern magic. Because of the path of the boy who possessed the pattern of Asura, a new history on the continent of Atun has begun to awaken. Eventually, Van finds Leon as expected. She's safe. She immediately gets up in his face, asking if he's gone crazy. What the hell was he thinking? Suddenly charging in like that and throwing her away too. Van smashes his fist through the tree near her head and notes that she was hiding something from him, wasn't she? Before she can answer, he just sighs and notes that he is not that curious. He has safely escorted her as promised, so he just wants payment. Leon agrees and hands him the 10,000 gold. And with that, Van goes on his way, but Leon stops him. He looks behind, but then she decides not to say anything. She'd like to take him all the way to the family estate. However, she cannot drag such a young mercenary into the war. It's a shame, but it cannot be helped. First, she needs to hurry up and get back to her family. Van also makes his way to the third residence of Anna Dalton in the Kingdom of Nordia and hands her the cash, throwing it on the ground. She is surprised. She knew he had something up his sleeve, but Van doesn't care about pleasantries. He wants to know about the info she saved up for him. Anna agrees, but but she will only take half the payment, making Van ask what she is getting at. Anna explains that she has failed to pinpoint Kosorak's whereabouts. That man is thorough beyond belief. Instead, she will tell him about someone who knows both information about Kosorak and his possible whereabouts. Van sighs and tells her to just spill it already. Anna asks if he's ever heard of a mercenary group called Tez, and Van hasn't, so she begins explaining. Teze is a mercenary group active in a variety of criminal fields like murder, kidnapping, and human trafficking. They also do assassinations, counterintelligence, espionage, sabotage, and so on. The leader of Tez is none other than Kosorak himself. About 5 years ago, Teze began rising rapidly, and now their influence is big enough to control a small fringe kingdom on the outskirts. It has become so big that it can dominate almost anything. Because of that, it's now hard to even locate Tez's main base, let alone track it. However, she is not such an easy woman to deal with. She managed to dig up the location and identity of one Tez executive. It's this guy right here. His long facial scars are the key features. He is a brutal assassin born with the pattern of concealment. He has never failed on an assassination so far. Van understands. If he is a part of Tez, he might know where Kosorak is. Van asks where this guy is now, and Anna explains that according to her intel, by now he should be in the capital city of Valhalla, in the kingdom of Bogra. Sure enough, he is right there, and at the Merkel gang headquarters. Only disaster lies in front. A picture taken straight out of a horror story, and inside too, with hundreds of bodies lying strewn, in all kinds of twisted ways. The remaining men try to run off, but they are easily caught and dispatched without prejudice. One of them wonders why he is doing this to them, and he doesn't really know. He is just following orders. They probably failed a mission or something. It seems Kosorak put their trust in them, and they failed. The man explains that this is only because no one told them there would be a monster-like guy as the bodyguard. Thanks to them, they lost their leader. The executive does feel bad about that, but even they didn't think Merkel would be taken down by some backwater mercenary. The man is confused. All this slaughter for just one failure? Is it not too much? The executive tells him to think of it as just punishment. They are both low-grade killers in any way. The man can't accept this and tells him to buzz off. Before screaming at his men to charge, it is now the time to take this bastard down. He uses the pattern of touch, which creates massive hands formed from magical power, freely controlled at will. With this, he manages to grab the executive and hold him in place while the others rush in with their blades drawn. The executive apologizes in advance for what he's about to do, and suddenly just disappears out of the man's grasp and appears back right behind them, letting them know that there is nothing they can do anymore. As the moon rises high in the sky, the executive comes out with someone else asking if he has taken everyone out. The executive asks if he's blind or something. Can he see the blood wash? If he doesn't believe it, he can also go in and check himself. The covered man wouldn't want to doubt him. He's sure he has handled it cleanly, like always. The executive tells him to get lost if he's done checking, but the man also explains that there is currently an investigation underway on the mercenary who killed Merkel. He has heard he has a black scar around his eyes and neck. The executive understands. If he's telling him this, then it means that he's another target. He needs to take action. The covered man is pleased to hear that he is as sharp as ever. No wonder Kosorak refuses to let him go. With that, the covered man leaves, and the executive pulls out a cigar to alleviate some of the stress. However, he thinks about those black scars on the eyes and neck. If it's the Bogra kingdom that's close to here, then it seems that their pets will intertwine soon enough. This is Scholar, a Tez mercenary, and a group executive. The next day, in a rather enclosed forest, two kids are at the mercy of a powerful monster who looks at them like they're a bunch of bite-sized morsels. They really can't think of anything to do against this thing, and can only stare as the beast charges in with its mighty hands. Before anything can happen, though, Van charges in and unleashes a mighty strike right through the beast's belly, killing it instantly, leaving the two completely shocked as viscera and gore fall all around them. With that, the beast simply falls down, and Van, who has covered himself up, asks if they are all right. One of them confirms as such, and Van tells them that this area is crawling with monsters, so it would be best if they got out of here quickly. They are just shocked that someone saved them. They don't even know how they could repay him. Van tells them that it's nothing, but the girl tells him they can't have that. At least they'd like to treat him to a meal, as they have a shop nearby. Van declines as he is also looking for a shop in this area, and Ofun, the girl, asks the name of the shop as they know every shop around these parts like the back of their hands. He explains that he is looking for a tavern called the Blue Knight. Has she heard of it? Often thinks that's a huge coincidence, as that's their shop, but the boy Magath wonders if that's the case, as their shop isn't really the kind of place people will go looking for. Ofen notes that she is the cook at the Blue Night, and this is her little brother Magath. She would also like to know the name of their savior if possible. Vaughn says that he is Ban, a very simple name change. Eventually they arrive at the Blue Night, which stands in the Bogra kingdom's outskirts, and Saya, who has been waiting for them, is glad to see them back. He wonders what took them so long. They have already finished preparing all the ingredients. She explains that they run into monsters along the way. Shocking Sia. Are they hurt anywhere perhaps? Ofen says it's all right. A kind person saved them, and he should meet them too. This is Ban. He is the one who saved them, and apparently, he was on their way to their shop anyway. Sia wonders why, but Ofen tells him to shut up and just show him in. After they go inside, she tells Van to take any seat he likes. Van is confused. Is it just them running this entire place? Ofen explains that actually, they are just living here, confusing him even further. She explains that, as he's probably noticed, they are not a real family. They all came from different kingdoms. For example, Lily and Ain lost their parents in the war. Sia's village was destroyed by monsters, and Magath's family was killed by mercenaries. They should have been dead a long time ago. However, a man brought them here and took care of them. Van understands, a man, huh? Ofen confirms as such. He is the owner of this shop and their first savior. Speaking of which, she wonders what he's up to. He's probably sleeping. He got back from work late yesterday. Ofen can't believe it. Well, she'll have to wake him up if that's the case, so he should make himself at home and enjoy his meal while she does so. Ofen just stands around and then goes to Scholar, asking how long he is planning on sleeping. He twirls around in his bed, noting that he needs 5 more minutes, but she tells him to stop sleeping and calm Magath down, as he almost died running into a monster on the way. He's probably really shaken up. This makes Scholar immediately get up and ask if they are all okay, and she explains that they're fine. A kind person saved them. Coincidentally, he was also on the way to their shop and saved them too. Scholar understands he can't just lie here if that's the case. He should go and greet them at least. She confirms as such, and points him toward the man, Van, who is now sitting at a table with his arms crossed. Scholar approaches him and says that he heard he saved some of his children. He thanks him for his timely aid. Van says it's fine, he was just passing by. Still, this is quite an interesting turn of events, isn't it? After all, he looks very much like the person he was looking for. They both stare at each other for a bit, and Scholar sits down, thinking that's impossible. Van agrees. However, an informant told him directly that the owner of this shop is a rather fantastic cook. Scholar believes that's a truly unexpected source, and Van asks if it's all right with him, of course, to see those skills up close himself. Scholar apologizes, as the children get really rowdy when he is in the kitchen, so he fears it would only disturb his rest. Van understands if that is his concern. How about they do it early tomorrow morning? Scholar agrees that at that time the children should all be asleep, so very well. Van is pleased that he agreed, and notes that he will retire early for the night. He needs his rest, after all. Scholar thinks that's a wise decision, and gets up, telling Ofen to please show this gentleman to a spare room. Ofen is surprised she has never seen someone warm up to him so quickly. What's gotten into him? Scholar doesn't face her, but his face is filled with rage, and he explains that perhaps they are just the same kind, so they naturally understand each other. Ofen shows Van to a room, noting that he can sleep here, and if he needs anything, he can also go ahead and ask them. Van tells her not to thank him, as it's not like he saved them on purpose. Ofen is left speechless and finds it strange. Scholar said the same thing when he saved her. Well, she will leave and let him rest. That night, naturally, Scholar makes his way to Van's room and tries to assassinate him right there and then, but Van simply grabs his blade and smashes him away. He has been waiting rather patiently for him to act, and it seems he has chosen a rather opportune time. Before all this, Scholar reported back to the covered man, noting that the caster suspected of killing Merkel was in his tavern right now. The covered man was actually pleased that it saved him a bunch of trouble. He should summon him there immediately using the formation. Scholar told him to wait. If he senses him, he might just run away. He will make sure he can't move around before he summons him. The covered man understood, but he would be waiting rather impatiently. Van notes that he can't believe him. He's taking care of children, but secretly killing people like a rat. That is absolutely disgusting behavior. Scholar apologizes for not being a better adult for him, but Van tells him to save it. He just wants to know where that bastard Kasorak is currently. Scholar is shocked. This bastard came here already, knowing everything about Tez. Whatever the case though, he cannot just tell him. Van expected an answer like that, but he wants to see if he can still say that, after he cuts off his limbs one by one. Scholar gets in position too, and tells him that if he turns back now, he will pretend that he never saw him. Van is a little confused. Then, Who was it that just tried to kill him in his sleep? Scholar understands. If that is the case, then they will do it like this. He suddenly activates something, which is a formation that goes around the whole room, and immediately takes Van somewhere else, which seems to be a rather pretty-looking cave, although it looks more like an arena. He knows what this is. It is a formation. He has heard a few mentions of it from time to time. Formations are Runecraft power inscribed into letters or images with mana poured in. The stored power can be unleashed at any point, usually cast through paper as a medium, but can also be set up using certain placements or objects. He wonders where he is now, though. Did that guy really run or something? Suddenly he is forced to dodge a strike from an unknown source, which he has only felt because of the mana. He continues dodging again and again before reclaiming his footing and rushing in with a mighty punch, which only lands in the wall of the cave. His opponent is long gone. Van looks around, but suddenly Scholar appears behind him, telling him that he shouldn't turn his back. He thrusts with his weapon toward Van, cutting his cheek once again, and he is getting increasingly more annoyed by this. He jumps away, and thinks that he can't see him with his naked eye, and cannot sense his presence either. Not even a sound reaches him. So this must be his runecraft, right? Scholar gets up and looks at him from down below. Indeed, this is his concealing rune, which has the concealment ability, able to erase one's presence entirely. He charges in again with a strike, but Van just dodges and continues running. In a narrow, dark cave like this, dodging attacks is hard enough, but locating him is even harder. Scholar hits the ground again, Van using only the wind to dodge, and thinks that even so, this does not matter. He charges in. Scholar, thinking that he does not see him, however surprising even to him, goes straight for his body and clasps his hand around his neck. As he hoists him up, he tells him that hiding his body will never help, as he can still see his mana after all. This is the second manifested armament, Truth Eye, eyes that can perceive even the faintest mana, undetectable to normal senses. Scholar thinks that this is impossible, and then smashes him into the ground roughly, creating a crater throughout the entire cave, threatening to cave it in completely. Scholar sits down, completely defeated, and explains that in his 40 years as an assassin, he is the second runecaster to find him with mana alone. Van asks where Kasorak is, but Scholar changes the subject. What did he think about his kids? They were adorable, weren't they? Though orphans have been a bit scary lately. Van doesn't care about his sob story. He grabs his hand and rips it apart, telling him to say where Kasorak is, or he will begin ripping out a lot more. Scholar understands it's under Kasorak's order that he has slaughtered countless people. He is a man beyond forgiveness. Van is getting annoyed. If he would like to confess one more time, then he will rip off his remaining arm. Scholar was not done though. Even if everyone else condemns him, even if they only see the killer, he cannot die yet, not until he has protected the children, so he wants to apologize in advance. He pulls out another formation, and the covered man arrives on a wild beast, which punches him straight in the guts and sends him flying. The covered man is glad that he has finally found him, the runecaster who killed Merkel. He must say it is an honor. Van is getting annoyed and unleashes more of his mana. Couldn't he see that they were talking? Who the hell is he to interrupt? As Van was thrown away, he felt that the monster thing got in pretty deep, cutting his side quite roughly. The masked man takes a look at Van, and, just as expected, he has black scars on his eyes and neck. The fact that he even drove him this far makes it really seem like this is the person who killed Merkel, doesn't it? Scholar catches his breath and tells him to be careful. He found him using his magic. He can't even tell what level of sorcerer he is. The masked man agrees. For someone who looks so young, he is rather incredible. Van calls him out and asks if he is willing to answer his questions, and the masked man wonders what he is talking about. Scholar explains that he asked him where Kasorak's location is. The masked man apologizes, but right now, there is no one who will be able to answer his questions. This is another executive of Tez, Vergaten. Vaughn thinks that talking doesn't really work at all, so he jumps in again, but Vergaten's beast immediately reacts, trying to punch his punch away. Using this distraction, Scholar gets behind Van and tries to pincer him, but before he can, Van simply jumps away and strikes the beast again, who blocks his strike. Although he thinks that really wasn't the wisest choice, he uses more force and shatters the beast's hand completely, making it wail in pain. With that, he begins charging towards Vergaten, who is impressed to have achieved such great things as a sorcerer at a young age. He has never seen growth like it before, but what should he do? He can handle more than one after all. He is not limited to just one. This is the glyph of summoning. By summoning a subspace connected to another dimension, it is possible to store and retrieve anything as needed. Van notices the beast descending on him and thinks it doesn't matter. If he just has to knock them all down, then he will. However, using this minuscule amount of opening, Scholar dashes in with a strike, telling him that he's let his guard down. Van can't move now, his tendons having been cut, allowing the beast to just pounce on him and keep him in place. Vergetten is impressed. Even one of these would be more than enough to crush a normal sorcerer. Just what kind of glyph sorcery does he have? Is it a body enhancement or something? Van notes that he is the only one asking questions around here, and he'd better answer him right now. Vergetten loves his fiery personality, and he enjoys it a lot, so he has decided to make him into an assassin of Tez. Firstly, though, he will have to make him into his precious little slave. This is the glyph of taming. It infiltrates the opponent's spiritual world, destroys their existing ego, and creates a new ego that the caster desires. Van is shocked to see two glyphs used at the same time, and Vergetten touches his scalp, noting that now he will be born anew. He gets inside of Van's mind, but only finds a valley of blood in a place that looks and feels like hell. Vergetten, with the glyph of taming, has made countless beasts and sorcerers into his willing slaves. This attempt never once failed. However, what Vergetten did not expect to see was this: a complete, perfect image of hell. A single boy, neither living nor dead, who has lived with a single-minded determination for revenge. For the longest 10 years of his life, he has spent it all training in the dark pit of agony, which is his own mindscape. The demon Vergetten is now seeing just smiles at him, before unleashing a bunch of grotesque-looking people, who immediately begin to clamp down on Vergetten, and he screams out, forcing himself out of his mind world, catching his breath roughly. Van is getting really annoyed now. He can't have him peeking inside his mind like that without even asking. Vergetten, before he can even say what he's seen, gets blasted by Van's punch as he has freed his hand. Vergetten's arm comes clean off, and Scholar thinks that this is impossible. Did Vergetten's brainwashing fail somehow? Van is getting increasingly more annoyed. One of them is locked in some strange cave while the other is speaking in riddles. This is unbearably unpleasant to him. With a surge of power, he plants his feet straight into the ground and unleashes a strike so devastating that it kills all of the summons in it and crashes hard into the wall of the cave, making it explode forward as well. Van throws both Vergetten and Scholar right in front of it, noting that the formation is finally broken. These guys really are hopeless though, and Vergetten must already be dying. Seeing this, Van grabs a retreating Scholar by the hair and notes that this is his last chance to speak. Just where is Kasorak? Seeing that he is not answering, he lets go of his hair, telling him not to say it if he doesn't want to. From this moment forth, he will make it so he has to speak. Suddenly though, before he can do anything, all of the orphans appear, protecting Scholar. He asks what the hell they are doing here, and an orphan pleads with Van to spare him. Van notes that he has not killed him yet, of course, though he might die during the interrogation, although he does not know. What he does know is that it is far better for them to just get lost, because he might kill them first. Suddenly, another orphan rushes in, attacking his legs and grabbing his arm. Van asks what he is doing. Is he not going to get off of him? The boy tells him just to leave them alone, and everyone agrees, pleading with him to leave them all alone. But Van has no intention of doing so. He pushes the boy to the ground and prepares a strike. He will have to kill them first. Before he can unleash the strike though, Vergetten, using his other hand, begins to summon again, unleashing a bunch of octopus-like sharp tendrils towards Van. He is surprised to see that he is still alive and crosses his arms to defend himself. The strikes, however, suddenly change course and go towards the orphans and Scholar, hitting all of them at once. Seeing this, Vaughn charges through, aiming to catch Vergetten, but he thinks that it's too late. He can't even pull himself into his dimension, so he escapes with milliseconds to spare. Van, however, has taken a trace of his mana. In his dimension, Vergetten thinks that, since he killed Scholar and those meddling kids, there is no way the information about Kasorak will leak. He went through a lot because of that brat. A sorcerer whose inner self is made like that. He doesn't want to experience such a thing again. However, he may just have to, as Van just rips into his dimension and grabs his bald head. Vergetten asks how he entered his dimension, and Van explains that there was a tiny remaining passageway leading to the dimension. Just before it fully closed, he injected his mana and forcibly tore it open. He should have really locked his door properly, because he is getting really sick of dimensions and such. He shouldn't worry too much though, as he doesn't intend to kill him yet, because he killed Scholar. He has many things to talk about with him. He will take him out again in about 1 month, so he should just hold on for a bit. He unleashes another Asura curse tool, the Gluttonous Pocket. It is a dimension that devours living creatures with magic power, basically a pocket dimension to hell. As it drags him into it, Vergetten screams that he does not want to go back there, but the only thing he can do is scream as he's dragged into it. Van's head turns back to normal afterwards, He returns through the portal, noting that, as expected, the gluttonous pocket consumes quite a lot of power with his current condition. Using it even once is pretty risky. He falls on his knees after getting out of the portal and looks around. It seems that everyone has died. He has secured the hostage, and the hostage will definitely give him some necessary information. So first, he needs to get out of here and recover his magic power. Before he can, Scholar, who is somehow still alive, tells him to wait, as the orphan can still be saved, so he should please just save her at least. Van just looks at him for a bit, his cold, calculating eyes betraying nothing. That same night, a few more executives appear, with one of them noting that a fierce battle took place here, it seems. Vergetten's arm was cut off as well. To think that someone would dare to kill 2 executives of Tez, that guy must have been utterly insane. The one with purple hair asks Mongo if he can track down the culprit, and he notes that he has a faint scent, but the smell still lingers. He was here until yesterday, it seems. The one with purple hair tells Rabin that he should go report this to Kasorak at once, as he will track the bastard's trail together with Mongo. A bunch of men at once agree, and they immediately teleport somewhere else. The man with purple hair looks at Scholar, wondering if this is the end he wished for so dearly. From his perspective, it is utterly fleeting and a worthless gesture. In the morning, suddenly, Orphan wakes up bandaged around the abdomen. Van is glad to see that she is finally awake. Orphan immediately remembers what happened last night. She asks about him and the kids. Van tells her that everyone except her died instantly. Orphan's face immediately falls. She immediately denies it, saying that it cannot be. He must have seen wrong or he's mistaken. She has to go save them now, as they can still be alive. Van tells her to stop her fruitless gesture. He already buried the kids' bodies himself. Orphan collapses completely to the ground, crying and screaming that this cannot be. Why on earth did he save only her? He should have let her die with them, so why save her? Van tells her not to mistake it as a gesture of kindness. It was merely because he had use of her. When Scholar asked him to save her, he asked why. Even if he did, she would not last long on her own. She would be torn apart by monsters or killed by bandits. Scholar then revealed that Orphan knows about Kasorak and Taze. She would provide him with information in his stead. Scholar bowed his head once more, telling him to take her alive and deliver her to a village. She is a strong and lucky child. After that, she will surely live on her own. Van wonders what he should do if she knows nothing about Kasorak, and Scholar told him that he could kill or spare her. He should do whatever he wants, but at least save her. Van agreed, and that's why they are in this situation right now. However, he does not have time for her wallowing. He grabs her by the neck and apologizes for being so forceful, but he wants to know about Kasorak right now. Orphan explains that it's the Barkan kingdom he is looking for. Kasorak will probably be around there. The last time he came to see Scholar, he was heading to the Barkan kingdom on a commission from the king. She overheard him saying he had been going there for a while now. Van asks what he looks like, and she explains that his appearance changed every time he showed up. It must have been the power of his emblem magic. Van asks if she knows about the emblem magic that he has, and she doesn't know the details. Scholar said that he was a sorcerer born with 3 types of emblem magic. It is so rare that even on the continent of Atun, only a handful of these people exist. Van thinks that this could really be troublesome and drops her to her knees, noting that there is no time, so she should tell the rest on their way. Orphan asks where they are going, and Van notes he made a deal with the Scholar to escort her to a village. She should consider it repayment for the information she just gave him. They are leaving right away, so she should get up already. As they do so, Orphan's eyes take a while to adjust to the sun, but upon adjusting, she sees that there's a pretty large boulder in place, along with a few other smaller ones. Van explains that, as he told her, he buried all of the bodies here. They are under this stone. Only in this way will grave robbers or monsters be unable to dig up the grave. These children bore no sort of sin, so he had no reason not to bury them. He will allow her a moment of respite to say her goodbyes, then they will move on. Orphan goes to the giant boulder and touches it. With tears in her eyes, she remembers when Kasorak last visited. He was unimpressed by Scholar's action of abandoning Tez, only to waste away looking after some kids. If he slaughters all of these brats right here, would he return to his old self, the beautiful assassin that he once was? Scholar immediately begged for forgiveness and told him to spare the children, and Kasorak agreed. However, his duties will be doubled from now on. If he still wants to play the orphanage director, he should not even dare to think of running away again. After he left, Scholar apologized for allowing them to see him in such a pathetic state, but they shouldn't worry, as he will protect them all no matter what. With that, they were able to grow quietly as a sort of family. They even opened the Blue Night, and it became a place where they could all finally relax. They enjoy their peace, but it's finally time to say goodbye. However, Something in Orphan refuses to just stand down like this. She asks Van if he is planning to kill Kasorak, and Van agrees that once he learned what he needed, he has no reason to let him live. Orphan understands. If that is the case, then she wants to come with him. She will grind that bastard's corpse into dust if she must. A while later, Mongo appears in the exact same place, noting that the scent here is a lot stronger. The man they are looking for was here only a few short hours ago. The man with purple hair thinks that this is great news. Whoever he is, they will definitely be meeting pretty soon. At Kasorak's castle, one of his executives knocks on the door, noting that he is here to report immediately. Kasorak knows that Scholar has failed. He raised those who used to wallow like trash in the back alleys, with such care, only for them to end in such an unbeautiful way. He should tell Mongo and Tomoto to hold position even if they find the culprit. Since this is a pretty crucial moment, it would be best if no further variables arise. The executive asks if he should step in personally. Then, and Kasorak says that there is no need for him to move. For now, he will be heading to the Barkan Kingdom, and will leave all the trivial matters to him. Surfer bows his head, and notes that he will keep that in mind. Kasorak very swiftly arrives in the Barkan Kingdom, where one of the butlers is glad to see that he has arrived. The king is waiting, so they should go right in. They go to the throne room, and Kasorak bows his head, lightly apologizing for being so late to the meeting. The king says it is fine. More importantly, did he handle what he entrusted him with? Kasorak agrees, just as he wished. All the core sorcerers of the Aran Kingdom have been quelled, he may rest assured. Then, about the promised payment, they should settle their accounts right away. The king, however, knows that a certain problem has arisen. If the fact spreads across the continent that a kingdom brought in a very notorious mercenary corps infamous for handling only vile work, what does he think will happen? Just thinking about it gives him a migraine headache. The doors close behind Kasorak roughly, and he asks if he means he wishes to silence him, to wipe him out. The king explains that from the very beginning, there was never any payment promised to him. A lot of money has already gone into the making of the palace. Kasorak begins to laugh lightly, before going into a full-on laugh that is heard throughout the castle. The king wonders, has he finally gone mad after seeing death before his eyes? Kasorak stops his mirth, noting that the king himself was such an unbeautiful man. Could treachery have had any meaning in the first place? It seems that he was far too complacent. The king notes that he doesn't really need to say it, but resistance is useless. Besides, the 30 greatest sorcerers of the Barkan Kingdom are gathered here, and all the forces stationed within the royal palace are also waiting right outside. He has no chance of escaping. In response, Kasorak just weaves his hand once, and suddenly a green light appears outside the window and descends from the sky as an absolutely gigantic statue. Its power immediately begins to eviscerate anything in its path, with nobody being able to hold on. After Orphan asks Van to let her go with him, Van notes that she really isn't right in the mind. Orphan notes that she can't just live alone as if nothing ever happened, and Van notes that it would be far better to spend the rest of her life quietly and comfortably in some village. He also has no intention of protecting her, and if she gets in his way even a little, he will kill her himself. Orphan agrees. She does not mind at all. With that, they begin walking, with Van noting that he is heading to the Barkan Kingdom that she mentioned. Is she truly willing to follow him until there? Orphan agrees. If she gets in the way at any single point, he should feel free to take her life, as she will offer no resistance. Van agrees. With that, they will leave right now. As they continue walking through the night, the two executives spot them. Mongo wonders what they should do, as Lord Kasorak told them to wait quietly, but the other one, Tomoto, knows that this is an opportunity for them. If they capture this guy here and offer him to Lord Kasorak, then they will be able to repay their debt to him and ask for whatever they wish, and Tomoto knows that this is rather convenient. Then they will simply keep following this bastard and look for a chance to kill him for sure. As they continue walking, Orphan says they probably passed it at least 3 more times. It seems that they are lost. But is this that forest? It can't really be. She heard a story from a scholar when she was younger that this mountain range, where they set up their tavern, was the nest of a demon beast in ancient times. The entrance to the nest is called the Forest of Moor. Once one enters it, they can never escape. Van wonders if she's saying they entered the Forest of Moor. It is a pretty absurd ghost story. Orphan, however, believes it is pretty possible. They said countless demon beasts live here in the Forest of Moor. Van wonders if that is so, but then, what was supposed to be a tree looks at him with multiple eyes and immediately lunges at him, wanting to taste his flesh. In that very second, Van grabs Orphan and gets out of the way, throwing her away roughly, making her skid on her face. Van regains his posture and unleashes a mighty strike into the beast's incoming strike. His strike is a lot more powerful, and it goes right through the beast. He looks a bit at Orphan and notes that if she wants to live, she should hide herself as well as she can, as it seems that the ghost story that she just told him might be real. With that, and the screams of another tree monster, the fight begins, and it only ends well into the morning, where Van takes out the last of them. He tells Orphan that she can come out now, and she does so, but she also wonders if he is all right, which he confirms. However, something is strange. His mana is being consumed a lot more severely than usual. It feels like this forest is trying to drain it all away or something. His vision begins to swim, and it seems that he is even having hallucinations. Just what kind of forest is this anyway? Suddenly though, Tomoto lands behind him and calls him a foolish bastard. The moment he stepped in here, it was already too late. He charges in, with Van dodging his strike and wondering, what the hell is this? However, Tomoto does not stop there. He hooks a leg around Van's neck and grabs his arm, putting him in a headlock. Van's body now has no strength because of the hallucinations, so he can't put up much of a fight. Tomoto knows that this is working far more easily than he thought. His assigned role in the T's mercenary corps is as a combat mercenary. He notes that, for a sorcerer, he shouldn't waste his mana so recklessly. Van can't believe how arrogant he is, and cocks a fist into the air before crashing it right into Tomoto. However, he does not seem to be affected at all. This is quite the unexpected result for him. Compared to when he is fighting a monster, this pathetic power is truly weak. Van is surprised to see him all right, and Tomoto continues berating him, noting that he is weak, far too weak. At the same time, Mongo comes from behind and unleashes a devastating strike right into Van, sending him flying into the ground. Tomoto asks about the woman who was with him, and Mongo notes that he knocked her out and tossed her aside. Tomoto knows that he did well. They might get some information out of her too. All the while, Van clutches his head as he can't do anything because of how low on mana he is. Tomoto explains that they are not ordered to act recklessly, and only track them from the shadows, but that's only what weak and cowardly underlings would do. Mongo agrees they are strong, not weak, and Tomoto likes that he knows as such. They still have to avenge both Scholar and Vergetten. Van rushes in with another strike, but Tomoto blocks it while Mongo strikes, punching him right in the gut so hard that it sends him flying into a tree again. Mongo does not stop there as he rushes in to finish the fight. Van's eyes suddenly open wide, and he jumps high in the air, unleashing a devastating strike into Mongo, but it seems that Tomoto has gotten in the way just in time. A long, long time ago, there was a tribe that spread fear across the entire continent. They were commonly known as the Perfectly Armed Ones, the Cataphract tribe. From their ancestors to the present generation, all members of this tribe possess only two markings, the Mark of Armor and the Mark of Fist. The Mark of Armor sorcerer blocks all incoming attacks, while the Mark of Fist sorcerer crushes the enemy in a single blow. This is a combination of a shield that can block absolutely everything, and a spear that can pierce absolutely everything. This is how the Cataphract tribe earns its name, the Perfectly Armed Ones. They do so again, sending Van flying once more. Tomoto thinks that they played around enough. When he heard Van captured both Scholar and Vergetten, he was on guard, but this is rather disappointing. It seems that they will have to finish this quickly. This is the TZ Mercenary Corps executive, Tomoto, who has the Mark of Armor, the ability to form a solid armor from mana that protects the user's body. And this is TZ Mercenary Corps executive, Mongo. He has the Mark of Fist. When the mana-formed gauntlet touches an object, it triggers an explosion, and also encapsulates his fist in iron. Van jolts slightly, thinking that this forest is still absorbing his mana. Using Destruction Fist drains too much of his mana too. It seems he has hit his limit. He did not want to use a weapon that consumed his lifespan yet, but with his mana depleted, he might have no other choice. Tomoto knows that he is so weak it's starting to really piss him off. He tells Mongo to only leave his head. Mongo agrees. He will make sure to erase all of him except his head. They will deliver it to Lord Kasorak. Upon hearing that name, Vaughn immediately gets up. They are from the Teze Mercenary Corps too, huh? This is really perfect. He is pretty exhausted right now, so he will only ask them once. They should tell him everything they know about Kasorak. If they answer obediently, he will let them leave, as he has no quarrel with them. Tomoto calls him a filthy insect. Something a weakling like him should never mutter like that. Tomoto charges in with his power, and Vaughn knows talking will not work with people like him. How awful. He puts his hand down, reaching to the ground, and a portal of flesh screams open, with a sword piercing through. Actually, it's two swords, a double pair of demonic blades. Since they refused their last chance, they should not blame him for what happens next. If they are true warriors, they should be ready to die at any point, right? The Necro Daggers are the third weapon from the Mark of Asura, and Tomoto can immediately feel the southern ominous energy from them, And from Van, too. He can see that an attack is coming, and sure enough, Van charges in, attacking his shins with a low attack, surprising Tomoto. Mongo himself charges in with a punch, but Van immediately dashes away. However, Van did cut his arm, and it hurts a lot. Tomoto doesn't know what to think. The guy who was just on the brink of death has regained his vitality. He can't even tell what that kind of mark even is. Tomoto apologizes for underestimating him as a weak fool. He is misunderstood after all. Even so, this changes nothing. They both charge in at once, and Van simply rotates in place. With an upward cut, he strikes Tomoto and then uses that same momentum to rush through, unleashing a bunch of strikes on them both at once, cutting their flesh. Tomoto looks behind, wondering where he went, but Van is right in front of them. He trips Mongo and attempts to kill him, but Tomoto rushes in, blocking the strike by catching it in his chest. He thinks that he finally has him, and tells Mongo to crush him, but Mongo cannot move anymore as a dark mist permeates from him. Tomoto himself kneels on the ground as he feels something. His mana is draining away completely. He asks what kind of trick he pulled, but then he sees something at his feet, a bunch of restless souls. Van notes that this is his victory. His body won't move, will it? The necro daggers are daggers inhabited by necro spirits that feed on mana. Anyone caught by these blades will have these spirits latched onto them, devouring their mana and weakening their mark techniques. Vaughn explains that these kinds of spirits devour any mana they can find until they are full. Until then, they will never stop. With this, they begin to slowly devour Tomoto, more specifically, his mana, and eventually, he is left as nothing but an empty husk. In fact, this is his true form, which Van recognizes. They have been reinforcing their bodies with mana all along, it seems. Tomoto exclaims that this is not true, and demands that Van give their mana back. That was the artificial mana Lord Kasorak granted them, and they demand it back now. Vaughn is surprised. Artificial mana? So they can manufacture mana artificially. He wants to know more. They cannot possibly fight with frail bodies anyway. Tomoto clenches his gnashing teeth and remembers what happened in the past. In the Cataphract tribe ruins, the chief was looking forward to their next trade with Tez. He walked around with Kasorak, who wondered who these two children were. The chief told him that they were born without the ability to store mana inside their bodies. They are a disgrace to the tribe. They've lasted for 5 years, but soon enough they will certainly die. They are worthless, weak trash, so he should not bother himself with even looking at them. Kasorak wondered if it was all right if he took them, and the chief agreed as long as he gets them out of their sight. 10 years later, the two brothers continued rampaging around, killing villages without prejudice. Kasorak came to check on them at one point, demanding to know why they survived and slaughtered another village. Kasorak told him that his killings are nothing but shallow self-hatred. They should restrain themselves from now on, as this kind of self-destruction is far from beautiful. Now, Tomoto, using the last of his power, exclaims that he and his brother are no longer weak trash. They charge in at Van, clearly unable to do anything more. He just closes his eyes and cuts them up entirely, exclaiming nonchalantly that the weaker the dog, the louder it barks. Van takes a step, another, and then falls on his face too, from the sheer mana exhaustion he has incurred along with the lifespan cost. As he rests, Van sees a dream that would not end, a dream so sweet he would never want to wake up from it, a dream of Linda, a wish he wanted to protect. Suddenly though, he wakes up. Orphan is glad to see that he is awake, and she is actually carrying him. She notes that he collapsed suddenly, and she figured they had to get out of the Forest of Moor right away, so she left without even taking the time to wake him. Van understands, so this is why he was in this state. Orphan apologizes, saying she was just in a hurry to leave. Van knows he likely passed out from using Soul Command Dagger. Although he is curious, he can't really be light, right? Orphan notes that she is actually pretty strong, and for someone like her, without any rune arts to be of help to him, this is the least she can do. Van asks if she is over 10, and she confirms as such, saying she is 13. Van knows that it is already too late for the rune arts to manifest, and Orphan knows that already. They say that when one's rune arts manifest, they instinctively know what kind of power their rune arts hold. She, too, eagerly awaited that incredible moment of manifestation, going to bed excited every single night, but in the end, that chance never came to her. If only she had rune arts, perhaps she would have been able to save the ones she cared about. Van notes that it could be the opposite, and then redirects himself, telling her to stop the pointless chatter and find a way. Eventually, she does find a way out, with Van no longer feeling mana drained. Orphan wonders if they should look for a nearby village first, or should they head straight to the kingdom. Vaughn tells her to keep watch a bit, as he needs to gather his mana once again. He feels his senses getting dull, so she should keep an eye on her surroundings for him. She immediately agrees, and Van continues meditating, absorbing mana from the air. After a while, though, he thinks that it should be enough. However, no matter how he thinks about it, something is strange. Those bastards who attacked him before, who were caught by the Soul Command dagger, showed no signs of having their mana drained, which means the Forest of Moor was specifically draining his mana, and his mana alone. Orphan is glad to see him overflowing with energy like this. Just a moment ago, he looked really lifeless. He then explains that, for a sorcerer, mana is the same as life force. More importantly, where is the nearest village from here? He needs to use a carrier pigeon. Orphan agrees and notes that they should leave right away. At the bodies of Mongo and Tomoto, a mysterious figure appears at Tomoto's feet. It is someone with a plague doctor mask, and he assesses the damage to his two dead comrades very intently. After going to a village, Van ties a message to a very feisty-looking pigeon, which immediately flies away just as feistily as it was standing. Orphan wonders who he is sending the carrier pigeon to, and Van explains that it's an information broker he knows. He needs information on artificial mana and Kesserak's rune arts. If he were really born with 3 rune arts, as she said, he would not be an easy opponent. Orphan wonders if 3 are really that incredible, and Van agrees. Even possessing 2 is already considered extremely rare, but to think he has 3. Orphan is surprised he knows so much. He is young and seems strong. He must be from a noble family or something. Van tells her that it is enough. He's answered her question so far as payment for saving her. He is not of noble birth, but they are done with idle chatter. Orphan agrees, and suddenly they overhear a conversation. 2 men are noting that a mercenary from TZ is here right now. One of them tells the other to speak quietly and not disturb the man. The other apologizes, saying he was surprised. The one who told him wonders how he came to know, and the man who answered says that he is not a local. He hears all of the rumors. He should be careful not to make eye contact. Before he can finish, Van appears behind him, now wondering if there are really mercenaries from Tez here. They are immediately startled by this, and the man asks if he is really curious about that. Van agrees, so the man pulls him close, noting that it's only normal to be interested in that kind of stuff at his age. He will explain it once, so he should listen up and be careful not to make eye contact. That man with the glasses behind them and the bun is a member of the T's mercenary corps. Upon hearing this, he immediately gets up and walks over to the man sitting down at the bar. He notes that he heard he is a mercenary from Tez. Is that true? The man knows that, technically, it is true, but what business does he have with him? Upon having confirmation that this man before him is from the Tez mercenary corps, Van pauses. Van unknowingly begins to unleash something that makes Kesserak's hair stand up, and he immediately prepares his magic. But instead of attacking, Van immediately gets on his feet and bows down, apologizing for his sudden rudeness. He wants to join the Tez mercenary corps as well. He would like to be taken in. This confuses Kesserak. The information gathered about Kesserak so far comes down to only 2 things. The first one is that he possesses 3 rune arts. The second is that there is a high possibility he headed towards a place called the Kingdom of Barkan. Other than this, they were not able to obtain much else. There is a limit to what information brokers can find. Looking into it through mercenary groups was impossible as well. Every Teze mercenary they encountered up until now was consumed by either fear or loyalty, refused to disclose anything about Kesserak, and chose death without much hesitation. There is one information source they managed to secure, but it will take at least a month to drag him out of that place. If the place they have reached is nothing but a dead end, then there is only one option left, throwing himself out as bait. Van continues speaking, noting that he grew up in a poor household, living an ordinary, insignificant life, but he was born with rune arts, and has worked hard to become a real sorcerer. As someone who is not a noble, the only path he has to move forward is mercenary work, so he wants to join the prestigious mercenary corps. Van wonders how this stranger will react, and Kesserak looks at him with a sidelong glance. He thinks that, for a sorcerer, mana is exactly the same as life force. From physical exhaustion to emotional shifts, one can learn many things about a sorcerer through their mana. Just from a moment ago, the mana coming off this boy was filled with overwhelming killing intent. Not even within the T's mercenary corps is there someone who gives off such killing intent. What's even more astounding is the sheer overpowering mana that emanates from him. He has met countless noble heirs from many kingdoms. Among those around the same age as this boy before him, only 3 at most possessed mana on this level, and even then, he is not sure. A boy born into poverty, living an ordinary life, possessing such killing intent and mana. He is clearly lying, but now what should he do with this unsightly boy who is trying to infiltrate the Tez mercenary corps while lying to his face? He decides to agree, and notes that he will go ahead and take the entrance test. He gets up, noting that they are not some kingdom's army, just a mercenary group. Was he expecting some kind of grand procedure, perhaps? Van denies it and asks what kind of test this entrance test of his is. Kasorak takes a swig of his beer and notes that it's nothing much, just a personal interview with their leader, Kasorak. So, then would he like to accompany him right now? Upon hearing Kasorak's name, Van's eyes narrow. Can he truly meet him so easily? Obviously, Kasorak was lying. He is the one who is personally bringing every member of the Teze mercenary corps after all. The only thing he is curious about right now is one thing, this boy's identity. Is he a spy sent by another mercenary group, or perhaps an assassin sent from a kingdom? Perhaps a knight from the Ethos Order who keeps hounding them endlessly? Van himself is confused. No matter how much he thinks about it, this really does not make any sense. If someone this easy to meet existed, the extreme vigilance shown by the mercenaries wouldn't have made any sense. Kasorak thinks that whatever this boy is, his goal is probably the leader, which is him. But this boy does not seem to know that he is the head of Tez, or is he just acting to lower his guard? Vaughn wonders if he should refuse him. After all, if the entrance test is just a trap in disguise, Kasorak thinks this boy's goal right now is to infiltrate the inner circle. So, like it or not, he cannot refuse the entrance test. Vaughn knows that he cannot waste such an opportunity. If this isn't a trap, then he won't need to go all the way to the kingdom of Barkan after all. Kasorak himself knows that the only two things he needs to decide are whether he should lure him all the way to their base or kill him right here. Vaughn gets up and half bows, noting that he is willing to do anything as long as it means joining the mercenary corps. Kasorak notes that the leader is outside, so he should follow him, as they will be meeting him right away. Orphan sees Van walking away with someone. He told her to wait quietly, but why is he following? Before she can finish, she sees who exactly he is following. She knows who this man is, Kasorak. He goes outside with Van and points at two people, noting that he should go on and greet them. That man over there with the mask is Kasorak. Before something else can happen though, Orphan comes out screaming that the one wearing glasses, that man, is Kasorak. At the same time, the one with the plague mask tells Kasorak that the boy next to him is the one who killed both Scholar and Vergetten. Immediately the two turn to each other and begin attacking. Kasorak unleashes some kind of small totem on Van, who deflects it and rushes in with a punch, as he has finally found him. That punch goes through, seemingly coming out the other side of Kasorak. However, Kasorak just skids slightly on the ground, as it seems he has protected himself. That really was a beautiful punch indeed. For Scholar and Vergetten, he must have been far too much to handle. Killing Tezi's executives was not enough for him. He even tried to infiltrate them from the inside. What is he really? Sent from the Ethos cult? Van tells him to shut up and listen carefully to what he has to say. More than 5 years ago, he connected Daigul's bandit den with a sorcerer from the Zoe kingdom. That bastard. Just where is he now? Kasorak is actually surprised. How does he even know something like that? Van unleashes another punch, which Kasorak defends, and Van notes that he is the one asking the questions, and Kasorak will answer exactly the way he wants. Kasorak thinks that this guy is not from the Ethos cult, it seems, and apologizes, but he does not see any reason to answer his question. Vaughn figured as much. He would never understand if Vaughn asked so nicely, so he wants to see if he can still act tough after he crushes his arms and legs. Kasorak notes that he is very manly. Those are some beautiful eyes he has. It is a shame such beautiful talent had to meet him this way. Suddenly, using his magic, he unleashes a devastating strike from behind, a rock punch that sends Van flying, noting that Van is still not on his level yet. With a flick of his 2 fingers, he begins summoning a bunch of rock formations that act as loyal guards and fighters. They all stand in front of Kasorak, defending him, but with one gigantic punch that apparently does not break them, Van breaks the entire earth behind them. Kasorak is confused. Is this really the rune arts and mana of a boy who is not even 20? With this opportunity, Van charges in, taking out the rock soldiers again and again, before whipping around in the air and throwing something that catches in Kasorak's forearm, which he does not recognize. Is this a short sword? Before he can wonder more, Vaughn calls the blade back and catches it, wielding both of them. He tells him to brace himself, as this is where it really starts. Kasorak knows that, as he said before, this is pretty useless. Vaughn still charges in and begins unleashing strike after strike after strike on Kasorak, who just does not move at all, and lies completely still. If a sorcerer is compared to a swordsman, rune arts are basically the sharp blade, and mana is the swordsmanship that's been trained and polished over many years. Among scholars, the debate over which is more important for a sorcerer, rune arts or mana, still continues, but most agree that mana is far more important. No matter how legendary a blade that can cut anything is, when it's held by a 3-year-old child, and when it's held by a swordsman who has devoted 50 years to the sword, the difference is night and day. That's how absolute the amount of mana is. As he said, this is useless. With the amount of mana he has, he will not be able to even put a scratch on him, so he should just give up. He unleashes a strike on Van, making him fly off. The 2 men from before appear, one of them apologizing for interrupting his battle, but it appears that the knights from the Ethos cult are closing in. Kasorak thinks that they are tiresome little pests, but alright, they will use the formation. They are returning to Tez. It is a shame, but it seems they will have to postpone their battle. Vaughn immediately charges back in, as he will not let him run away. Instead of defending, Kasorak actually leans into his punch, making Van stop, demanding to know what he is doing. Kasorak expected as such. His goal was to capture him alive. Van cannot kill him, so Kasorak decides to give him some advice as a mentor in life. He should never show his desperation to his enemy so carelessly. That desperation of his will become his greatest weakness in time. With that, he disappears as well, and Van pushes himself up slightly. If he had been just a bit more cautious, just a bit calmer, he could have caught him. It seems that once again, he lost everything right in front of him. It was all because of him, and he knows that just saying sorry will not make everything right. He begins to shake and quiver, begging the voices that are not there to not look at him, and to not berate him. After going back to their hideout, Kasorak sits down, telling one of the 2 to call every division leader and executive here immediately. The man wonders if he is planning to start an all-out war with the Ethos cult, but Kasorak doesn't care about those bastards. He looks at his right hand, and notes that they will gather every bit of information they can find about the boy that they just met. Naturally, Orphan saw Kasorak too, and her eyes were filled with rage. The root cause of everyone's death was right in front of her. She clenched her fists so hard that they began to bleed. However, one of the men noticed her glaring and asked, "How dare she give someone such a blasphemous look?" Before she could even turn around, he knocked her out. Now she wakes up well into the morning to Van screaming at her to wake up. After she does so, he gets up, noting that, for her to be alive again this time too, her luck really is remarkable. Orphan wonders if he killed Kasorak, and Van denies it. He ran away. He missed him. Orphan understands and wonders if she really failed to do anything once again. Van reiterates that he is not going to protect her, so if she is going to keep following him, they should get moving already. Orphan wonders where they are going, and Van notes they will be continuing their journey to the kingdom of Barkan, as Kasorak might have fled there. He thinks that 1,000 years of despair, filled with that hope and terrifying hopelessness, is enough. This is the time to move. Revenge is not over just yet, and it's not like this fight was entirely wasted. Judging from Kasorak's reaction, the hooded sorcerer must be someone from the kingdom of Zoe. Naturally, to get more detailed information, they will need to catch Kasorak. Before he can think anything more, someone tells them to stop right there, and they are immediately surrounded by knights. The man explains that they are knights dispatched from the Ethos Order. From now on, there will be some inspections and questions, so they should please cooperate as best they can. Van knows about them. The Ethos Order is a guild located in the Yuhuana Kingdom that trains and maintains its own knights. His uncle mentioned it before. He apologizes, but his journey is long, so he cannot cooperate. The man puts forward an orb, noting that it is just a very simple check. He will have to place his hand on the device and just stand still. Van wonders why he should put his hand blindly on some device that he does not know. How can he trust them? The man with blonde hair notes that the more uncooperative they are, the more awkward things will become for everyone. Is he sure he wants to continue down this path? Van would like nothing more than just to kill him already, but that would make things even worse. Suddenly though, the captain arrives, telling them that this boy is not Kasorak. This is the Ethos Order Knight Commander Hugh Janil. I'm surprised he's not called Hugh Mangus. The man with blonde hair notes that the mana verification is not complete yet, but Janil explains that on the way here, they all felt Kasorak's mana clashing with another's mana, right? The scorched earth left behind, marked by the traces of the intense battle, and the faint mana from this boy matches exactly with the mana that clashed with Kasorak's. Kasorak must have left the battlefield during the fight, leaving the boy alone. Is that not right? According to the report that just came in, Kasorak also returned to the Tez headquarters. The blonde man notes that he should have told him that first. Janil apologizes, as Kasorak has a pattern magic that allows him to change appearance at any time. Without this mana detector, one cannot tell, so he should please be understanding. Van doesn't really care. Now that the misunderstanding has been cleared, he will be going. Janil looks at him for a bit, and, as he walks away, asks if he wishes to kill Kasorak. He has seen eyes like his before, filled with revenge and hatred. The man with blonde hair asks what kind of nonsense he is saying now, but Janil wonders where the problem is. Has anyone in the order faced Kesarak in battle before, or known about Kesarak's other rune art? The blonde man doesn't think so. Janil explains that the boy is the only one who has fought Kesarak directly. He is a valuable informant with that much experience. What does he think? Cooperation is better than going alone. Van refuses. How can he trust them enough to go with them? Janil sweetens the deal, noting that, by the way, they know all the detailed information about Tez, including Kesarak's next destination and even movements. Van is really surprised, and Janil knows that judging by his reaction, he did not know these things at all. Is this not extremely tempting? Van gets annoyed but confirms inside his mind that the Order probably knows a lot about Kesarak that he does not. It seems like it can't be helped, so he accepts. That evening, they all make their way back to the temporary barracks of the Ethos Order Knights, with Janil sitting in his impromptu office, staring at a photo that had a corner ripped off. He thinks about his grandson, about those same eyes that he saw in Van. He had forgotten for a while, but he never thought he would see someone like his grandson again. What could that child have gone through to have such a look in his eye? Suddenly, Van asks if he can come in, and Janil confirms as such. Van says he came because Janil was looking for him, and Janil confirms as such again. He is sorry to bother him while he is resting. It's nothing serious, but he just wants him to place his hand here. Van understands. This seems to be a mana detector that measures a sorcerer's power, right? Janil is pleasantly surprised that he knew about the divine rank system of the Atun continent. In all kingdoms of Atun, systematic management of sorcerers is basically mandatory, including mana measurement and registration. This is the divine rank system. It measures total mana and ranks sorcerers from the lowest divine rank 13 to the highest divine rank 1. After all, one needs to know the level of the ally who will be fighting alongside them. Does he not think so too? It is better to know where he stands on the continent right now too. He puts his hand on the stone, and suddenly the device begins to roar, opening its eyes wide. Janil knows that this is not a normal reaction. There is only one case where a detector opens its eyes, but how is this possible? The detector immediately begins to churn fire out of its mouth, and Janil tells Van that it's about to explode, wondering what the hell is going on. If one compares the divine rank system to levels of martial mastery, 13th rank is the beginner stage where one first awakens to talent in swordsmanship, 9th rank is a veteran who has survived countless brushes with death, and 5th rank is seen as a war god who can shake entire armies of multiple kingdoms. The device fires out a number, which is 10, confusing Janil, as that cannot be right. Van notes that, explosion or whatever the hell aside, it seems that he is ranked 10th. Janil thinks that the device opens its eyes when it detects a sorcerer of 7th rank or higher, and judges it with a huge explosion and massive flames, so it really was just a malfunction. This is really a first. Van did not expect the device even to try to detect his sealed mana. If he ever uses this again, he will need to be more careful, since they are done with that. Janil notes they should start with the formal introductions. He is Hugh Janil. He is one of the Knight Commanders of the Ethos Knight Order, and Van gives his name. Janil says it is a good name. It is nice to meet him. Well, since the divine rank measurement is done, they should get straight to the point. The Ethos Church currently knows 3 rune arts that Kesarak has, but aside from the rune art that lets him change his entire appearance, they do not know anything else. That's why he wants to hear from him, the only one with real combat experience against Kesarak. Van really does not know anything in too much detail, but he will tell him what he knows. Janil guesses that the statue one might be a summoning or enhancement type rune art related to stone. He will keep that in mind when planning their operation. This is a huge help. A promise is a promise too, so he will share what they know about Kesarak and Tezi. How much does he know about them anyway? Van notes that he knows next to nothing about Kesarak, and all he knows about Tezi is that they are a strong mercenary group that rose quickly about 5 years ago. Janil understands then. He will start with Kesarak. As a child, Kesarak was adopted into a noble family that supported the Ethos cult. Nobody knew who his real parents were, or where he was even born. Then one day, that noble was found brutally murdered by Kesarak, and Kesarak ran away soon after. Since then, the cult has been searching for Kesarak, but they have not gotten a single piece of information. It's as if he never existed in the first place. Then, 5 years ago, just as the cult was about to give up, information about Kesarak suddenly started to pour in out of nowhere. Vaughn guesses that if it were 5 years ago, then it was around the same time that Tezi started making a name for themselves, right? Janil confirms as such, and the important part does not end there. Someone was hiding Kesarak and helping Tezi grow. This surprises Van. And Janil continues, the Ethos cult has more or less pinned down who that someone is. It's the Argo Kingdom, the kingdom where Taze's base is located. Their group includes mercenaries at 13th rank, 10 executives at 12th rank, 4 division heads at 11th rank, and their leader, Kasorak, at 9th rank. Taze and Kasorak are basically hunting dogs that handle the Argo Kingdom's dirty work. The sudden flood of information about Kasorak was likely this kingdom's doing, to carve Taze's name into the continent to get more customers. Van notes that basically then, even if they know their base, they have not attacked because it is inside of the Argo Kingdom. Janil confirms his suspicion. If Argo Kingdom really is behind Taze, fighting them inside Argo's borders would basically be a fruitless endeavor. Argo Kingdom is on an entirely different level from normal minor nations. They are not someone a single cult like them can afford to go to war with. Vaughn thinks that if Argo Kingdom truly is the power behind Kasorak, then there must be sorcerers of at least 9th rank in there. Janil knows that even so, that does not mean there is no way at all. Exactly 15 days from now, Kasorak will leave the base and head to the Uhuana Kingdom with a small group. Their night order will ambush his route in advance and launch a surprise attack. Van wonders if the information they have can really be trusted, and, while Janil cannot reveal the source, it is reliable enough. Van notes that, when they sit down to plan the operation, he will join and discuss the details as well. As he walks away, Janil ventures to ask, would it be too nosy to know why he is desperate to kill Kasorak? Van stops for a moment at the edge of the tarp and then leaves, noting that it very much would be. After he gets out, one of the knights is glad to see that he has finally come out. She shakes hands with him, noting that her name is Naomi, and asks who he is. After Van introduces himself, she notes that they should work well together from now on, and catch that damn Kasorak bastard. This is the Ethos Cult Knight Order, the Knight Commander's aide, Naomi. Van agrees, and the knight with blonde hair from before approaches. Naomi wonders why Polan is yelling his head off again. Polan points at Van. He knows that the commander pitied him and brought him here. However, they still have not confirmed if he is actually a useful sorcerer, so he should get to the arena right now. Van does not feel like he has to prove anything, angering Polan even more, and Janil comes out too, noting that it seems he has a lot of complaints. Polan notes that the entire Knight Order is upset, not just him. They still don't know if this child is a sorcerer they can rely on. Janil considers his request. In a group that will be crossing the line of life and death together, there must be no conflict or resentment, so he asks Van, would it not be easier for everyone if they sorted it out? With that, he walks away with Polan. Naomi just doesn't know why there are so many complaints, especially from Polan, with Janil noting that he just cares about the knights. That is why he is like this. She doesn't know what that boy's rank is exactly. Janil notes that he's a 10th rank, and after a bit of realizing what he just said, Naomi screams out, 10th rank, really? They go to the arena. Polan explains that, to see if he's truly a sorcerer worthy of fighting alongside them, every knight gathered here will judge him through a sparring match with him. They have no use for weak sorcerers in the Knight Order, so if he shows any pathetic performance, they will kick him out on the spot. He should do his absolute best. Van also wants to set a condition, if that is the case. Before he can, though, the match begins, and he kicks so hard off the ground that it shatters behind him and whips his leg around in a devastating kick that Polan can barely block, as the earth below him shatters. Van notes that his condition is simple. If he wins this match, then he wants him to keep that mouth of his shut. With that, he charges in again with another kick, completely overwhelming Polan. The difference in power is extremely evident by this point. Before the match started, Van thought that, as expected, it is better to subdue them without killing them. This works out pretty nicely for him as well. The tiny amount of mana he can use is slowly increasing. It is a good chance to test a new divine armament. What he hit Polan with is another divine armament. The fifth one, the Black Heaven Greaves. These are greaves that store mana, and then explode it to use the blast as propulsion for movement and attacks. The explosive power is proportional to the amount of mana stored. Polan eventually wakes up with everyone gathered around the campfire, with Naomi noting that they were resting a bit while moving towards the operation site. They agreed to arrive near the ambush point in advance, and fine-tune the operation details so they are on the move. He was unconscious for 2 days. Polan wonders if that is true, but if he could not lift even a single finger against that boy, could he really be the 10th rank? Naomi confirms as such, and he is only 17 now. It is really impressive, right? Polan asks how that can be possible at such a young age, and Naomi guesses that perhaps he's from some insanely powerful royal bloodline of a great nation. Everyone has been completely taken with him, and they are desperate to get close to him too, it seems. Although he doesn't seem to care much, Polan understands that he was a monster from the start. It seems that this was a complete, Undeniable defeat on his part. He gets up and goes to Van, putting his hand forward, wanting to introduce himself once again. His name is Polan. He apologizes for how rude he has been up until this point, and could never have imagined that Van would be such a great sorcerer. Van extends his hand too, and says that it's fine. He sits down with him, and notes that he really is amazing. How did he reach rank 10 at this age? Van wonders if it really is such a big deal, and Polan confirms as such. Another knight notes that Polan here hit 11th rank recently, and his nose has been very high in the clouds for quite some time. Another notes that he finally met his match, it seems. The world sure is a big place. Polan wonders when he ever got conceited, and it's not like he is weak. This guy is the weird one. Another notes that Van can drink too. The more he sees him, the more he likes him. Another woman next to Van wonders what he is going to do, even if he likes Van, when he couldn't even graze a single hair on his head in the match. The man asks what she was talking about. He is still better than Turtul. He forfeited on the spot, but Turtul knows that he is the idiot who charged in without even gauging his opponent's strength. The woman laughs, noting that they really are petty, and tells Van that the reason everyone was wary of him at first is that a kid his age being this strong as a sorcerer was beyond anything they could ever imagine. One can't entrust their life to someone they do not trust. They all look like a bunch of idiots, and they are somewhat like that, but each of them is a father, a mother, a child, or even a grandparent to someone at home. They have things to protect, and homes to return to. Van says he is fine. She does not need to worry about him, and she knows that he really is a good kid. When this mission is over, she will introduce him to her daughter, as he will definitely like her. Another asks a woman what she is going to do after this, and she notes that she is going to take a trip to Calm Beach with her parents. Another notes that perhaps he should take his kids to the ocean too, while the other one next to him notes that his family hates the sea. A bald guy notes that he has to play with his daughter all day there. He is already scared, and a younger man notes that he is going to look at engagement rings with Elena. He'll probably be dragged around all day. The bald guy knows that they should cut out this chatter when they talk like this. Someone definitely dies. The young guy wonders why he's jinxing it, but the woman next to Van knows that he really isn't wrong. The bald guy knows that they haven't heard his story yet. What about him? They want to know about him. The younger guy wonders if, to become 10th rank at such a young age, he is perhaps the child of some royal family, or perhaps secretly carrying out missions to hunt criminals so he can become the heir. Van, however, remains completely and utterly silent, silencing the entire group around him as well. The bald guy wonders if they said something wrong, with the younger one noting that it's probably best if they just shut up. The woman agrees, and they should stop chatting and just drink, and then get some much-needed sleep. Van gets up and notes that he will get some fresh air for a bit. The bald man asks Orphan if they are not siblings. Is she not going to go after him? Orphan explains that they are not related. If she went, she would only get in the way. The woman tells them that their plan to shut up was probably the right idea from the start. Van goes atop a hill. The moonlight offers him some slight solace. He draws the face of the one he loves, a face he remembers keenly, a face he can never touch again. Suddenly, though, he hears a step from behind, and sees that it's only Janil who heard that his members messed up a bit with him, so he came by to check if he's alright. Van says he's fine, and Janil steps forward. He wonders if his anger towards Kasorak is revenge. He crouches down next to him, putting one hand on the ground and one on Van's hand, with Van wondering what the hell he is trying to do. Janil tells him that hatred is a massive fire that spreads inside of the heart. That great massive fire might feel like it is making him stronger, but the flames naturally burn out eventually, and all that is left is a heart that is reduced to ashes. He just hopes that, even if they are strangers, Van's own heart does not burn away completely. He should pull himself together, though, as they head out again tomorrow. He should go inside and get some much-needed rest. Then Van looks up at the sky, at the moon more specifically, and begins wondering. Eventually, Turtul gets up, with the young guy wondering where he is going. Is he turning in already? Turtul knows that is not happening anytime soon. He is just going to take a leak, but really, that mouth of his will be the end of him someday. When Van comes back, he should apologize at least, right? Suddenly, though, he sees a wooden totem on the ground, and he crouches down to it before it completely takes his head off and kills him on the spot. Kesarak steps forward, noting that they are drinking right before such an important mission, so it is no wonder this is happening. They are foolish knights of the Ethos cult, so they will learn with their lives what it means to mess with him, and the price of carelessness. The entire Teze mercenary corps has now assembled, and they are ready to take this matter and finish it for good. Before all this, at the Teze mercenary corps headquarters, Kesarak stood before the informant, noting that he was truly an unbeautiful sight, but he should not worry. Inside that statue, even his ugly screams would become rather beautiful. The informant wanted to figure him out, and Kasorak knows that he probably figured out who is roughly backing Tez, right? He is underestimating the intelligence network far too much, but he is truly grateful to him for successfully passing false information to the Ethos cult that he'd be heading to the Uhuana kingdom in 15 days with a small group. He did rather well. The informant can't believe it. That was a trap. Kasorak knows that this is nothing for his little mind to worry about anymore. His role is over, so he will graciously let him rest for now. He puts him inside of the brazen bull and lights the fire below him, causing his screams to be heard through the bull's statue nose, with Kasorak agreeing with himself that even screams like that should be beautiful. Suddenly, Turtul goes back to the group, bleeding, with the young men and a young woman wondering what happened. How did this happen? They should stop this bleeding. Turtul tries to tell them to be careful, but be careful of what? Be careful of him. He transforms back into Kasorak and kills them on the spot, taking the woman and the young man's head. He tells his men to slaughter everyone here and not to leave a single one alive, as he has done with their games. His men immediately rush in, with the Ethos cult also rushing out in their unprepared state. One of them screams that this is an ambush. They begin fighting with everything that they can. This serene camping spot becomes a battlefield in the span of just a few seconds. Janil wonders what the hell is going on, and Poland knows that it's a surprise attack by Tease. They need to retreat immediately. Janil thinks that this is impossible. How could they come to know of their location? Is it that guy? Poland thinks that there is no room to hesitate, but Janil notes that it is already too late. It seems the spy the cult planted was discovered. Kasorak heading to Uhuana was actually a trap to lure them in like this. If this truly is a trap Teze set up, they are probably already surrounded, and it's not just these guys here running in blindly. No matter what, they have to avoid complete annihilation. He tells Naomi and Poland to retreat south and report the current situation to the cult. Poland wonders, what about Janil and the rest of the members? Janil notes that they will be moving north in the opposite direction to buy them as much time as they can. They will use that opening to break through the encirclement and head straight to the cult. Poland thinks that this is reckless. They will all die before reinforcements from the cult even arrive. Janil screams at him before letting out a defeated plea. Seeing this, Poland eats his own words and rushes away with Naomi. Janil goes to one of his other aides, apologizing, because he is slow on his feet, so he will have to stay. Alberto tells him not to say such things. If not him, who else would have guarded him? Janil knows that he is as reliable as always and grabs the hilt of his blade. He screams loudly, a scream that can be heard through all the forests, telling all of the knights to form the scythe-cutting formation. Their goal is now one. They will break through the enemy center and escape this encirclement. Their death is not an option. They are all going home together. They charge in at once, and behind them, Poland and Naomi are stopped by a few executives. Kasorak said those rats might move in the opposite direction, just as he predicted. He is always right, isn't he? One of them wonders where they think they are running to, after getting them all worked up. This guy with strange hair is a group division head, Jiangxi Monshi, and this guy is another division head, Pascal. Naomi wonders what they should do against two division heads, and Poland notes they have no choice but to fight. Pascal grins widely, wondering what they are going to do, and immediately unleashes a mighty strike on Poland, sending him flying into the ground at incredible speeds. Naomi grabs at her blade, but Monshi wonders why she is ignoring them. That really isn't wise. She turns around just in time to defend against the two strikes, but she is on the back foot, unable to defend. Naomi is losing her footing, and Monshi charges in one final time to take her life, but that's when Van grabs both of their glaives, stopping them in place. He lets go of one of the glaives, letting the other one come forward, and charges his greave on his right foot, killing Monshi on the spot, shocking everyone. What the hell is going on over here? Are they that brazen to attack him like that? Monshi immediately takes out another strand of his hair from his beard and uses the rune of clone ability. By plucking body hair and infusing it with mana, one can summon clones on themselves. That is how he charges in on two fronts at once. Even so, Van charges forth, grabbing Naomi's blade and crashing it right between the glaives of the two Mons. Using the entire blade as leverage, he unleashes a whirling kick into one of them, the clone, which is taken down instantly, surprising Monshi. Pascal, however, screams in glee, wondering what he should do. It has been so long since he has seen such a desirable body. His rune is a rune of fusion. It is limited to living organisms, but it can fuse stolen body parts with one's own body. He unleashes a devastating strike towards Van, who dodges, but Pascal uses that same strike as leverage to charge in and attack with his other hand, which Van dodges again. He continues dodging and dodging against Pascal's overwhelming attacks until he eventually catches both of his hands and uses them as leverage to unleash an incredible drop kick right in his abdomen, allowing him to readjust himself and jump forth, unleashing another punch into him, telling him to get lost. He continues laying into Pascal, who just laughs, as that seems to have hurt quite a bit. Munchie charges behind him, having summoned 4 more clones, but Van knows where the real body is. It's the one guy with a completely different mana level. He uses the True Eye armament, allowing him to see who the real Mon is. He kicks off 2 clones at once, sending them down into the ground before readjusting himself and charging forth at the real Mon, grabbing onto his leg and locking it entirely in his arms. He keeps gripping and gripping tighter and tighter, with Mon telling him to let go, but then notes that he heard crutches are pretty good these days, so he shouldn't worry. With a loud crack and tear, Van completely takes off his leg and throws him away, going back at him with that same leg, aiming to beat him to death with it. Mon is confused. There was no intel about the Ethos Knight Order having such a strong sorcerer. Just who is this guy? Daomi tells Van that these guys are from the Teije Company mercenary group, with Van wondering how many there are. Daomi also tells him that Kasorak's heading to Uhuana Kingdom. That was a trap. Right now, the commander and the members are facing off against Kasorak alone. Polan arrives, clutching his side, and tells Van that he must go where the commander is right now. His goal was definitely Kasorak, right? So he should just keep going north. He should hurry. Even now, he must be getting farther away from here. Van tells him that these opponents are far too much for just the 2 of them. They will regret this, but Polan notes that he has no regrets. He's already half killed them anyway, and besides, now that he is a true knight, he cannot just keep owing a brat like him. He should go. If he's any later, he really might miss Kasorak. Vaughn looks at him a bit and turns around. Not that he wasn't going anyway. Daomi gets up too. They begin unleashing the full extent of their mana, as it's do or die, so they will have to hold them off. Kasorak himself is mostly done with the knights, but he finds it rather unfortunate. The tactics were beautiful, but this is reality. It seems like they're splitting into 3 columns to break through the enemy broadly, but in reality, the center column led by Janil broke through in an instant. The left and right columns protect them and destroy the enemy formation to quickly escape the encirclement. It was a tactic that perfectly suited their rune arts, but with the knight's strength being what it is, it's like throwing pearls before swine. There was not a single sorcerer who could properly support his rune arts. It is truly unfortunate. He should have stayed right next to Leon Sapphire so he wouldn't have to suffer this unbeautiful end. Alberto tries to get up to help the commander, but he is immediately killed right in front of Janil. Janil screams out for his lost comrades. Kasorak turns around, telling one of his subordinates that this guy was an excellent knight, so he should send him off beautifully. The subordinate understands. He looms over Janil before crashing his jagged blade into him. Janil himself looks at the dirty ground and at the man, and closes his eyes. In the end, until the very end, it seems he was unable to do anything. Before Janil is struck, Van arrives on a fucking bike, shocking absolutely everyone. Van says to Kasorak that he is glad they are meeting again, as their business has not been done yet. Before this, he put his hand on the ground. It was faint, but he could definitely feel it far in the north, Kasorak's mana, but it is too far away to move there in one go. This should be perfect, though it is noisy. He summoned the bike, who immediately talks, noting that it has been a long time since it felt refreshing air. It is good to see him again. Did he cut his hair again? This is the 6th divine armament, the Black Spirit Chariot, a demon beast that lives by consuming living beings as fuel. Its maximum speed approaches the speed of sound. He immediately told the bike to shut up, and that they should go. That is how he ended up in this situation. Kasorak wonders why that boy is here. A few days ago, at the Teije headquarters, he received the report about Van that he requested. The sorcerer who killed the executives is indeed him, but there's absolutely no information related to him, his birth, his past activities, even his identity. Everything has been unclear. They could not find anything concrete. Kasorak was pretty annoyed and surprised, thinking that this was impossible, and asked what the Argo Kingdom said. His assistant told him that, contrary to his predictions, the Argo Kingdom said that there is no way he's from nobility or royalty, which made it even more suspicious in Kasorak's eyes. He is neither noble nor royal, yet he is a 10th-ranked mage at that age. If they do not nip this in the bud right now, he will become a gigantic obstacle in the future. Kasorak thinks that this works out pretty well. He can deal with all of these headaches at once. He calls out Surfer, the guy next to him, but before he can say what he wanted to, a wave of pain suddenly overwhelms him. He begins coughing uncontrollably, spitting blood in his own hand. These are clearly side effects of something that he does not disclose. He tells Surfer that he will need some time, and Surfer agrees. This is the Teje mercenary group division head, Surfer Ortega. The other division head, Ajir Nero, notes that he will support him as well. Van asks Janil if he's alright, and Janil immediately tells him that these are not opponents that he can handle on his own. He should run away. Van can see that his arm was severed, and he is bleeding heavily. He must be physically exhausted, and his mana seems to be depleted as well. Would it be more efficient to abandon the commander and fight all alone? Van asks what his rune arts are, but before he can answer, Surfer unleashes a devastating strike with his weapon right into them. Noting that they do not have the luxury to chat quietly like that, Van then rides out of the dust with his bike and lands roughly with Janil on it, telling him to run away. The bike itself tells Janil to stop grabbing that, as it's sensitive, but Surfer is not done with his blasts. He gathers a bunch of wind in his blade and sends it flying towards them. This is the rune of wind. He can freely manipulate natural wind, or artificially generate wind through mana. The bike seems to be far too fast for the wind, allowing it to get away. That's when Kesorak uses his ability. Even in his weakened state, he is able to summon the mighty statue. This is the rune of stone statue. He can manipulate stone through mana to sculpt various types of stone statues and freely control the completed statues. The sandworm statue tries to catch Van, but he simply rides away from it, even through the falling ground. With the bike surprised that his skills are still the same, and Surfer continues charging in from behind, Kesorak summons a hand up in the front, which makes Vaughn divert his course as expected. Maintaining the Black Spirit Chariot for a long time is difficult with his current mana. Should he give it up and bring another divine armament? Janil puts his hand on his shoulder, and Vaughn can feel his mana recovering. Janil tells him that he has absolutely no intention of running away. It is a meager power that he has left, but he should let him add to it. He asked about his rune arts. This is exactly what his rune arts are. The rune of Commander, limited to life forms in contact with the caster. He can inject or steal mana, and can convert stolen mana from others into one's own mana. But what he is giving him now is just the mana he can give. With the mana he has left, Van dodges another few strikes and says that's fine because this is more than enough. As the sandworm almost gets to them, and Surfer is right next to them, Van jumps off the bike and tells it to devour that blue bastard with glee, before unleashing a punch right into the sandworm, cracking it. The Black Spirit Chariot is a demon beast that lives by consuming living beings, and among living beings, its absolute favorite delicacy is intelligent beings, allowing it to easily devour Surfer without an ounce of hesitation. With that done, Van uses his power to charge in swiftly at Kesorak. This time, he will absolutely not let him escape. Kesorak, however, doesn't even move. He smiles, in fact, as he is underestimating Surfer far too much, with Surfer being right behind Van. The territorial dispute between the Kingdom of Balcony and the Dockart tribe was called the Dockart Mountain Range War. The Dockart tribe did not want a war with the Kingdom of Balcony, which had encroached upon their territory. They were attacked unjustly and tried to solve the conflict peacefully. However, that was not in the plans of the Kingdom of Balcony. War broke out due to the Kingdom of Balcony's unilateral invasion and did not stop for over 10 years. As in all wars, there was the death of parents, the death of siblings, and the death of comrades and lovers. On a battlefield where only death was allowed, the roars of countless beasts that tore at their ears were stopped by a single mercenary group. That is where he met Surfer and told him that, with this, the Kingdom of Balcony had fallen and the war was over. This meant that the Dockart tribe was now completely free. But would he not come with him, as he needs people with beautiful talents like him? On that day, Surfer made a decision. To this man standing before his very eyes, to his savior, he would dedicate his entire life. The chariot claims that it had been a long time since it had had a feast with such texture, but Surfer was actually alive and well in its mouth, and simply spun out of it, surprising the chariot. He landed down, claiming that he has still not repaid the grace he received from his master yet, and split his sword into two, allowing him to unleash a devastating amount of strikes. Van defends against the strikes, but having no interest in him, he drops him and tells him to get lost. Surfer lands down, having realized a lot earlier that this is not an opponent he can take lightly, so he tenses his entire body, his weapons glowing. He has no choice, it seems, but to go full power from the very beginning. Van thinks that this is troublesome, and he must preserve as much mana as possible. Surfer has transformed into a true demon, claiming that he and Kesorak are a community bound by blood and faith. If he dares to try to reach his master, he will have to step over his dead body first. Van gets annoyed at his words, remembering his own family, his own community that was bound by blood, that was supposed to be bound by blood, so he gets immediately extremely annoyed, asking if he even knows whose blood he is blabbering about. Surfer throws both of his blades at Van, more precisely at his sides, unleashing a flurry of wind, and then claps his hands together before putting them on the ground, making a bunch of whirlwinds appear right around Van. With that, he recalls his blade and charges forth. As there is nowhere left to run, he begins charging at Van, limiting his movement more and more. Kezarach is a great man who will end this era of war and bring about peace to the world. Does he think the likes of him can harm someone so gracious? He becomes a whirlwind himself, of fury that he thinks is righteous, and begins crashing himself towards Van, telling him to be torn to shreds and vanish. Van himself realizes that this is not an opponent he can save mana against. Because of the seal, he can only use a small amount, so summoning the complete armament was impossible. Now, with the captain's help, his mana is full, so it's possible to summon the armament in its complete form. The true destruction feast is released with its amazing power. He tells him to shut it. Their kind treats human lives like cattle, and he dares talk about faith and that bastard being a great man. He charges forth, unleashing the full vestige of the Asura, causing Surfer to falter in such incredible power. He tells him that he's disgusting beyond measure, and does not want to see even a speck of dust of his disgusting life. He unleashes the devastating strike right into Surfer, making it explode like a bomb. Kezarach, seeing this, tells Ajirni that he should infuse him with artificial mana. With Ajirni wondering if the side effects are okay, Kezarach tells him that larger techniques will be impossible, but he is fine because true beauty does not fade so easily. In the past, when Kezarach continued his work, he was informed by Surfer that the Argo Kingdom has started a war with the Ohuana Kingdom. He was slightly surprised that the King of Argo must have been truly anxious to start things so quickly to complete the artificial mana as quickly as possible, and Kezarach agreed. They feel the same way. Naturally, to achieve a beautiful world, they must complete the artificial mana as well. Surfer looked at the vat in front of him and asked if this was the artificial mana storage dummy he developed. Kezarach agreed. This dummy's name will be Ajirni. It will be his first creation. The raw artificial mana solution was impossible to store in ordinary containers. However, if one injects the solution into the blood vessels and cells of a dead body, the artificial mana stabilizes the hemoglobin structure in the blood, and it does not stop there. With the power of artificial mana, it's even possible to make the corpse move. Naturally, the memories and self from the corpse's life do not exist. It is a beautiful, living, breathing artificial mana storage. However, in the end, once the artificial mana is depleted, it will be just a corpse. A strong body that can fully accept artificial mana, even while alive. Such a resilient body does exist. For the beautiful world they aim for, they absolutely need such a resilient body. The body of Ohuana Kingdom's Grand Duke, Leon Sapphire. Kezarach unleashes a bunch of meteor-like strikes towards Van, who immediately dodges between them. Clearly having moved fast to do so, he sees Kezarach go to Surfer's corpse, and he closes his eyes gently. Van wonders how they have done human trafficking, organ trading, assassinations, and imprisonments. They are trash who will do absolutely anything for a coin, but among themselves, they think themselves precious. That is absolutely disgusting. Kezarach tells him that judging everything based only on what others show on the surface is not beautiful, and this is his second warning. Van is adamant about ending this and tells him to shut up. Kezarach notes he has to end this right now, and puts his hand on the ground. Using his rune of totem poles, he is able to summon 4 totem poles that will have the power of the 4 elements: earth, water, air, and fire. They come out of the ground and immediately unleash their combined strikes towards Van. At the same time, Kezarach uses the rune of stone statue, making a bunch of statues appear behind Van, encircling him in their combined strikes. However, he pushes his feet into the ground and pushes both strikes away with his power, shocking Kezarach. He then continues charging in, as they continue fighting. Janil, using his rune arts, can feel that Kezarach's mana suddenly became abnormally strong. Somewhere, somehow, he knows there is a mana supply force for Kezarach. He senses the flow of mana following it as it spreads throughout this place, and he can definitely see that his mana supply force is hidden in the ground. It's that bastard right there. Kezarach, out of the corner of his eye, can see Janil rushing towards Ajirni, and immediately summons another stone guardian to deal with him. 3. In fact, before they can kill Janil, the chariot arrives and immediately rescues him, noting that it would be bad if his master died, so he will be helping him out. Janil is fine with that, and tells him to run at full speed. The chariot does so, and they almost reach Ajirni, who is running away. Before they can touch him, Kezarach unleashes the totem of fire on them, sending both flying. That was pretty close, however, and with this, he has left himself open, with Vaughn being right behind him, wondering where he is looking. He unleashes a devastating strike, with Kasorak having just enough time to block it. He can see that this boy is becoming stronger than when they first met, without the help of artificial mana. Just how in such a short time is he able to gain such strength? He dodges another of his strikes but becomes annoyed and backs away. He is not done yet. No matter how strong he's become, as long as he has artificial mana, he will never lose. Janil, however, smiles and apologizes about this, but despite how he looks, he is pretty tenacious, having managed to actually touch a journey before he got blasted away. He uses the Rune of Commander to completely drain a journey of artificial mana. With Kasorak immediately feeling it, Vaughn strikes again, forcing him into a backpedal. Kasorak uses the Tombstone Wall ability to create a shield right in front of him, but Vaughn just strikes through it and rushes in, telling him that he will not be needing crutches as he is going to die soon anyway. At the same time, Polan and Diomi seem to be done with their opponents, as they can no longer feel any mana from them. They are definitely dead. They hear the fight going on behind them, with Diomi noting that this came from where Van and the commander are. Should they not go check? Polan refuses. Everyone's sacrifice would have been meaningless if they went now, so they must get to the cult no matter what. With that, they continue running, but as soon as they're out of the way, Pascal awakens. Actually not dead at all. At the Ethos cult headquarters, it is aflame, with real flames, and with a righteous fire of fury, as the Grand Duke stands in front of his army and tells them to get ready, as they are going to rescue Duke Janil. This is Leon Sapphire, the Grand Duke of the Yuhuana Kingdom, the head of House Leon. One of his assistants tells him that there are no survivors. It seems that they have arrived just a step too late. Leon tells them to move immediately, as they're going to rescue Duke Janil. Van crashes his fists into Kasorak, putting him to the ground completely, and immediately picks him back up. He asks the sorcerer from the Zoe Kingdom, the one he connected to the Digyal mountain hideout. He wants him to tell him everything he knows about him. Kasorak cannot believe how much of a fool he is. Who does he think he is talking to right now? Using probably his own life force as his power, he unleashed a devastating strike on Van, sending him skidding on the ground. He wishes to give him a piece of advice, the last one he will ever give him. No matter how trivial an ability may seem, he must never lower his guard until the very end. Vaughn now realizes that when he raised those barriers earlier, did he perhaps hide himself and throw his subordinate out as bait instead? That is quite a survival tactic. It seems that what he hit was a journey after all. A journey himself tells Kasorak to please take the last of his artificial mana, which he immediately does so, telling him to rest. With his newfound power, Kasorak gets up and begins screaming, and here he unleashes the full extent of his true ability, allowing him to craft a suit of stone. This is the stone statue rune combined with the totem pole rune and the manifestation rune. This is the elemental colossus, a giant stone golem that wields the power of the four elements and merges with him. Kasorak did not expect to have to summon the elemental colossus against him. It seems he must acknowledge him. Even Janil is shocked to see that he is using 3 runes at the same time. The mana output is insane in and of itself. With artificial mana, he easily surpasses Divine Tier 9. He smashes his hammer into the ground, unleashing a bunch of strikes right into Van, who dodges and attempts another strike. But Kasorak blocks with a shield of ice before raising his hand and unleashing a bunch more meteors right onto Van. He dodges those as well, and Van tries to get at his feet, but Kasorak simply raises the feet of the Colossus and strikes him away. He begins coughing up more blood. These are the side effects, and he must finish this quickly. He explains that it does pain him to crush such beautiful talent as his, but it cannot be helped in this situation. Vaughn wonders who exactly is crushing who, but Kasorak tells him to drop the bravado. He already knows his mana has completely run dry. However, that's when a formation appears right below Kasorak, with him not knowing that it was there in the first place. Van wonders if he thought he was that stupid to just run away without a plan. That is precisely right. While fiercely moving to avoid Surfer and Kasorak's pincer attacks, Van stains the tail of the Black Spirit chariot with blood, preparing to summon that thing. The countless corpses scattered across the battlefield and the blood soaking deep into the earth. All of it was far more than enough to serve as sacrifice. At this very moment, all that spilled blood finally gathered together right in Van's palm. He crashes it into his chest, giving him a newfound power as they are transported into his domain expansion. Kasorak sees that it is not a formation, it is actually a rune art, but he has never seen or even heard of such an ability. His colossus slowly begins to crack at the seams, and he falls down helplessly, his artificial mana being completely gone from his body. Van slowly approaches, telling him that inside a sea of blood, the only one who can use mana is him, the Asura rune. This is the 7th manifested armament. The Blood Jade wielder who offers sacrifices to summon the Blood Jade becomes the master of the Sea of Blood. steeped in death. Keserak cannot believe such absurd rune arts, but suddenly one of the dead catches his arm, and he immediately pulls it away, ripping it in the process. He tries backing away further, but he is hit with a wall of the dead who recognize him, the dead who wished for him to suffer as much as they did because of him. The ethos Knights. The wall of flesh and suffering continues following after him as he runs, but it's pretty clear that he cannot get away in time. They scream that this is all because of him, that he's not going anywhere, that he is not running anywhere. He will come with them and suffer eternally. They begin crawling on his skin, gripping his entire face, with Van thinking that this is a truly ugly sight. Well, he did bring this on himself anyway. He summons a mighty pitchfork made of malice and notes that they really should have just left him alone. He unleashes the pitchfork right into Keserak's back. The trap formation slowly seeps away until there is nothing left, and Keserak is left on the cold, hard ground, sensing that the mana and blood throughout his entire body is drying up. Is this the true power of that boy's rune? Van walks over to him, and Keserak immediately says that he remembers the Digyal mountain hideout. They wiped out a small village in the Assyrian mountains for the cleanup. He connected them to him through the Digyal mountain hideout. He is certain he was told there were no survivors, so he was the survivor from that village. He supposes he came looking for revenge. Van tells him to cut the shit and tell him about the Zoe Kingdom runecaster. Keserak looks up, noting that people love to say there is nothing more pointless and empty than revenge, but that's where they're wrong. That's just the nonsense of hypocrites who never stood in an Avenger's shoes. The moment revenge succeeds, one feels something that nothing else in this world could ever give them, a trembling, intoxicating catharsis that you can get completely addicted to. It's an overwhelming sense of release. It's achievement, fulfillment, and beauty all at once. It is something only those who complete their revenge can truly feel. However, those feelings fade just as quickly, and in the end, all that comes crashing down is an empty heart and a sense of hollowness that borders on despair. And how does he plan to overcome such emptiness? Van clutches his neck and prepares a fist, telling him to cut the shit once again. All he needs to know from him is about the Zoe Kingdom runecaster, or does he want to make him suffer even more? Keserak looks at the hatred in his eyes. They are filled with nothing but that. It is like he is seeing his old self again. Keserak was not always like this. At 15 years old, he was just a small boy who worked hard to help his father. His son was going to become a great runecaster soon, so he was in a good mood. He only had a drink or two, but they should head inside as his mom is definitely tired of waiting. They went inside, and Keserak looked at the photo of his mother, the only one they had, noting that he would come home more often, so she should take care. Seeing his son like that, his father told him that even when he grows into a fine runecaster, he should never lose that kind heart he has now. He should live doing what is right for his mother, and for himself. He should promise him. They pinky promised, and that day turned into night. And the next day, it was Keserak's day to leave. His father was naturally crying. It felt just like yesterday when he was toddling around, and now he's entering the military academy as the runner-up. He is way too proud. Keserak wondered where that tough exterior from yesterday had disappeared to, and the carriage driver told him to get inside, as they would be late for the entrance ceremony. Keserak did so, but before he left, his father told him to never forget the promise he made with him yesterday, and he should stay healthy. All right? Keserak agreed, and the carriage began riding away. His father promised that he would live long enough for him to make it big, and buy them a house in the capital, and continued crying a bit. But it seemed that he may not have been able to keep his promise, as two of the kingdom's guards stood behind him ready to take him. Keserak was not taken to the military academy, but instead to an estate. When he went inside, the Lord welcomed him warmly. He heard his rune let him change his appearance into anything. Is that really true? Keserak agreed, but wondered if this was really the military academy. The Lord told him that he had cancelled his enrollment. He is going to be his adopted son from now on, and assist him instead. Lately, his beautiful artistic inspiration just is not what it used to be, and with his ability, he seems to be his perfect muse. Keserak did not understand what he meant, and the Lord guessed so. Peasants really cannot understand a word, can they? So they should bring him in at once. With that, they brought his beaten-up father to his feet. The Lord was a little surprised that he still had the stamina to struggle like that. He told Keserak to listen very carefully to him. If he helps him for just 10 years, he will even forge him a certificate saying he graduated at the top of his class from the academy, and then he will be let go peacefully. Then he can become a proper runecaster. He will live comfortably, and spend the rest of his life happily with that father of his. But if he dared to refuse, he would tear his father's limbs apart, and shove them down his very throat. He should decide quickly, as he hates waiting. His father tried to tell his son to run, and Keserak wondered, if he helped, would the Lord really let them go in 10 years? The Lord agreed. He is the Archbishop of the Ethos Order after all. A promise like that is easy for him to keep since he has so much power. Kasorak agreed to do it, and the Archbishop was pleased. Now they should settle it with a contract, and perhaps throw away those ugly clothes. He even brought a dress for him. His father tried to scream to tell him to run away, and not become that man's toy, but Kasorak, with tears in his eyes, told him not to worry and just wait 10 years for him. With that, 10 years passed. The maid saw the scars on Kasorak. He was the adopted son, and yet, calling his creations art while putting him through every kind of sadistic torture was too unimaginable. Kasorak walked around, now 25 years old, his face hidden by a mask, his eyes deadened, and devoid of the life that they had within them. He knocked on the Archbishop's door and immediately opened it, with the Archbishop being annoyed that he was here. Who let him in? But he should get out at once. Kasorak told him that today marks the 10 years they agreed upon. He even brought the contract with him. The Archbishop apologized to the man he was speaking with. It seemed that one of his slaves was causing trouble. The man said it's fine. They should not mind him and go back to their little business. That was the first time meeting with the runecaster from the Zoe Kingdom, whom he had been searching for all of this time. The man is named Akratos. Kasorak kept tabs in his own mind of what the Archbishop did to him. It was unbearably exhausting, but if he endured just 8 more years, he could finally see his father again. On one particular month, a bunch of people who looked just like the Archbishop came and did horrific things to him. Every day has been absolute hell, but if he just holds on for 5 more years, he can finally see his father again. His entire life had become just torture that was a prelude to another. Things that used to be the hardest are now easy, and things that used to be easy are now the hardest. He wondered, how much longer does he have to endure? Maybe 3 years left? His days were filled with nothing but pain. It might have hurt less if they just tore him apart limb from limb, but he must endure, as finally he had just 1 more year left. On the day that marked the 10th year, he immediately knew it and smiled with glee, laughing from ear to ear. Kasorak walked with Akratos and the Archbishop, with the Archbishop apologizing terribly for this. He was sorry to cause him trouble over a single slave. Akratos put a hand over his shoulder and told him that he wondered if he knew how much information their Archbishop sold to the Zoe Kingdom. So it's fine. The Archbishop turned to Kasorak, telling him that he should consider himself lucky. If Lord Akratos had found him even slightly unsightly or irritating, his head would have rolled on the spot. They eventually arrive at a door. Akratos guessed that this was where he kept his favorite exhibits. The Archbishop confirmed as such, with Kasorak wondering if his father is here. They enter, and the Archbishop agrees. It has been 10 years since he saw his old man, right? Kasorak rushed forward as the doors opened, screaming for his dad. A hint of his old self returned until it was forever crushed by what he saw. His father was alive indeed, but in a state so horrible and pleading to be killed that any last remnant of hope inside Kasorak was snuffed out. The Archbishop laughed, as this is a masterpiece he spent 10 whole years creating. It is the most beautiful work of his life. Kasorak fell to his knees, his expression completely broken even through the mask. The Archbishop loved to see that. At last, his beautiful artwork is now complete. Does he know how hard it is to keep him alive in such a state without letting him die? Kasorak wondered why. He promised. He endured 10 years of that, and he told them he'd quietly let them go. The Archbishop did not lie, however. Since the artwork is finished, he can go home now, though he doubts there is any way he could return home looking like that. At that moment, the only thing that sprang in Kasorak's mind was revenge. He told the Archbishop that he would kill him, and lunged at him, but one of the guards immediately put him to the ground, telling him to stop crawling around like a worm. The Archbishop agreed, and told him to change back to how he looked last night. He can't stop his excitement right now, so he definitely wants to show Lord Akratos too. Even as he was being belittled, Kasorak's eyes burned now with a manic glee at the prospect of killing him. He vowed again and again that he would kill him no matter what, and suddenly, Akratos attacked the guard that put him on the ground, sending him flying into the nearby wall with his tail. It has been a while since he has smelled hatred this thick. He likes it, so how about it? Does he wish for him to help with his revenge? In exchange, he will no longer be the Archbishop's slave, but he will be his. So what will it be? Kasorak did not care about that as long as he could get his revenge. He will give him everything, even his very soul. The Archbishop tried to reason with Akratos, telling him that he would just take care of the slave himself, but Akratos simply ignored him, and noted that this is a promise. He immediately put his tail inside of Kasorak's back, telling him that this might hurt a bit, but he should try and endure it. With that, Kasorak surged with power as his entire body was remorphed. The Archbishop wondered what Akratos was doing, and Akratos laughed. This was not sudden at all. That Archbishop is seriously hilarious, isn't he? Why does he think he came all of the way here? The king says a filthy pervert like him is just getting in the way of things now, so he came today to kill him. He was just wondering what would be the most delicious way to kill him, and it seems that he really got lucky. The archbishop ran away, calling for his guards, but Akratos told him that it was useless. He already sealed off all sound from this entire room, as the archbishop pounded on the doors that would not open. Kasorak slowly got up as a vessel of fury and vengeance. His dad begged too, didn't he? Begged to be spared, so he should do the same. He should beg for his life because eventually it will be snuffed out. The archbishop did beg to be spared, but Kasorak had no intention of letting him go. With that, his torture began, and 1 week later, Akratos came back and saw that he had tortured him for an entire week. He seriously isn't normal either. Just like his father, the bishop was alive in a completely mangled state, one that would ensure the maximum amount of pain. Akratos liked that he kept him alive like this. It seems that he did a lot better work than the archbishop ever could. And by the way, what is he going to do about his father? Kasorak knew that he could not survive that way, so he put his hand on him and simply blew him up in the fastest way possible, ensuring the least amount of pain. He took some of the dust from him and told him to rest. Akratos notes that now Kasorak will have to come with him, and just as promised, he will be his slave. First though, they should do something about that hideous face of his. Kasorak did not even think about it. After 10 years of torture, his original face must have been mangled beyond recognition. He changed his face, and Akratos liked this new version of him. Akratos asks what his name was. Kasorak modeled his face after his own father, the man who hoped that he would always have that niceness and love in his heart, feelings that have been completely snuffed out as the new Kasorak was born. They went outside of the manor, with someone named Versa telling Kasorak that it took him a while. Akratos told her that she's been short on test subjects, right? So he picked up someone rather interesting. Versa wondered if it was the man behind him, and Akratos agreed. He already forcibly implanted one rune into him, so they should head to the Zoe Kingdom and implant another one. Versa told him that they don't have time for that. He came out much later than scheduled in the first place. Before he left, Kasorak let out one long, lingering look at the manor, the place that has been his prison for 10 years. Now he tells Van that nobles and commoners should all tear down this unequal class system and build a beautiful world where everyone is equal. He even broke his promise to his father, just to focus on developing artificial mana. And this is how it ends. Van just got Akratos' name from all of that, but Kasorak is not done, telling him to head to the Leon family of the Ohuana Kingdom. There is a spy planted there by the Argo Kingdom. That Argo spy knows where Akratos is currently staying. Van wonders why he is suddenly helping him with all of this. Kasorak just laughs, telling him that at his level, he couldn't even touch a single hair on Akratos, and more than anything, he reminds him of his old self. Before he can finish that sentence though, a blast comes out of nowhere and crashes into him. Another comes right toward Van, aiming to crush him, and since he's out of mana, it just might. However, that's when the informant appears and defends him against the strike, noting that she's been looking all over for him. Diomi and Poland continue running, with Diomi barely able to catch her breath, but she says she's fine. They have to get back to the cult as soon as possible. However, that's when Pascal appears behind Poland and wonders if they meant the Ethos cult. Unfortunately though, it's probably already been torn into pieces. They immediately jump back, surprised, as he was definitely dead, but Pascal just laughs it off. Don't they know they have to check several times just to be sure? This is why sorcerers with no real combat experience are so pathetic. Poland asks what he means by the cult having been torn to pieces. What the hell is he even talking about? Pascal lets out a short, almost manic laugh, and notes that if the Ethos Knights are all tied up far away from the cult, lured away by Kasorak, then why are they still out there? Could there be a better chance for the forces that want to wipe them out? In the end, just like the commander has said, it really is over. Poland only now realizes that all of this was a trap to lure the entire Night Order away, and the goal was the destruction of the Ethos cult. This is bad. If that is true, they should have joined up with the commander instead of heading to the cult. Since there is no choice, he tells Diomi that he will stall them so she should go and find the commander, but her head is already torn off by none other than Pascal, who moved at extreme speed. Unfortunately, he has to get back to his group, so playtime is over, but it was fun. 1 hour later, Leon and his men find the bodies of these two, presumed to be Ethos Knights. Leon gets down from his lion mount and sees what horrible shape they were left in. Were they too late? However, it seems that Poland is still breathing, so Leon immediately tells the medics to treat him. From here on, they will search the surrounding areas even faster. The moment the informant saved Van, the one who attacked, thought she was an annoying meddler. Kasorak has been killed though, and with that, the Teje mercenary group is officially disbanded. Half of their objective is complete. Pascal approaches Robin and asks if Kasorak is eliminated, while Robin notes that he's quite late. Did he perhaps take care of the fleeing knights? Pascal immediately agrees, and Robin notes that since the TJ mercenary group is dealt with as well, they should return to the Argo Kingdom. Pascal wonders about that, as it seems Duke Janil is still quite alive. Not really well, but alive nonetheless. Robin tells him that it's far too late. Leon Sapphire's mana is getting closer and closer, so they must get out of here at once. Pascal is a little sad, as Olga is going to chew his ears off again. Anna looks around, knowing the enemy retreated back quietly for some reason, then asks why exactly he is here. She immediately gets on his case. She got to the tavern where they were supposed to meet, but he was nowhere to be seen. Does he even know how long she was searching for? Does he know how much it cost to travel all of the way here? Van then realizes he completely and utterly forgot he sent that carrier pigeon. He apologizes. He happened to run into Kasorak at the tavern and completely forgot. Anna doesn't really like that answer. He just forgot, while she's been looking for him for entire days. Van just pays her double the fee they agreed on, and she immediately takes it, noting that he's the best. Anyway, she also thinks that he was impressive when they first met, but now she can feel a vast amount of mana that doesn't even compare to back then. How is such explosive growth possible in such a short amount of time? At this level, it's more like he's releasing mana that was being suppressed. It seems that Orphan is also alive, with Anna confirming it. She found her collapsed nearby and picked her up. Her survival skills are honestly pretty amazing. Janil approaches, asking Van if he is alright, and Van is glad to see that he's alive. Janil never expected that he would manage to take down Kasorak all by himself, but Van notes that he only managed it because he helped. By the way, what happened to the weird demon beast he was riding? Van tells him that that thing was something he summoned through his rune arts, so when he ran out of mana, it naturally disappeared. Anna immediately introduces herself as an information broker from the Nordia Kingdom. If he ever needs information, he should come and find her at any time. Janil understands, but wonders if she could let go of his hand. Van's attention, however, is attracted by something else, someone approaching, and he immediately demands to know who they are. Leon would like to know the same. Are they allies or enemies? Just from him approaching, they can feel an incredible amount of mana, but Janil recognizes him as Grand Duke Leon, and wonders why he is here. Van asks if he knows him, and Janil explains that he is from the kingdom where the Ethos cult is located, the one and only Grand Ducal House of Awana Kingdom, House Leon, and that's the head of the house. Van wonders if it's the one Kasorak mentioned, and thinks that it must be. Leon is glad that Janil is alive, and he is ashamed that the entire Night Order was wiped out, and he alone survived. In fact, the reason he survived is only because of this boy. He single-handedly took down Kasorak and 2 Teje division heads. Leon is surprised when he hears this, and puts a hand on Van's shoulder. If it is true that he saved Janil's life, then he is also a benefactor of his. So how about it? He does not look to be in the greatest of shape right now. Why doesn't he come with him? Leon thinks it is better for him to stay in their house and rest first. Van accepts his thanks. It would be an honor, and Leon tells everyone that they will hurry back to the estate. These people are precious guests, so they will be treated with utmost care. Since Teje sorcerers could still be lying in ambush nearby, they should be especially alert and on guard. Kazorak slowly disappears into the ground, turning into a fine dust. The life completely seeps out of his eyes, and for the first time in a long time, he can finally rest. Meanwhile, in the Argo Kingdom, Pascal wonders where Olga is. One of the servants explains that she arrived a short while ago and went to the audience chamber before them. They all go to the audience chamber, where they immediately bow towards the king. Robin apologizes for their delay. As ordered, they have annihilated the Teje mercenary group. The king slowly gets up. As he notes, he distinctly ordered them to lure the Ethos Knights away, eliminate Janil, and neatly dispose of the now useless Teje mercenary group alongside them. He wonders why they failed to assassinate Janil. Will it be convincing enough so that he doesn't kill them right here? Olga finds them absolutely pathetic. How can they be so weak? Someone from Olga's unit laughs, noting that they've infiltrated Uhuana and even wiped out the Ethos cult with their own hands, and they couldn't even do such a thing. Robin, however, tells the king that this is not an excuse, but all of this failure was caused by the unit led by Olga. Their intended plan went wrong. The Ethos Knights had another rune user, even harder to handle than Janil. He alone held off Kasorak and the Digial unit, completely ruining their plan. On top of that, Leon Sapphire, who was supposed to be kept under watch, ended up where they were. That was the biggest reason for their failure. Before they can bicker further, the king lets out his aura, telling them that this is enough, making them bow immediately. They both apologize for their grave offense, claiming that they deserve death. The king sits back down, noting that to perfect the artificial mana, they need a body strong enough to withstand the side effects, a body on par with that of a superhuman. The one whose body fits those conditions best is Leon Sapphire. To steal that body from him, they dragged out a long war with Uhuana for years. The Uhuana royal family, their greatest obstacle, has already been eliminated, and once the ethos cult is destroyed as well, there will be nobody left in this kingdom who will be capable of protecting him. Suddenly, a subordinate wonders if letting a single old human user slip away will really change much. The king immediately lets out his snakes and wraps them around him, laughing a bit. In one-on-one combat, Sapphire himself is not that frightening, but Janil's power can push his allies' potential beyond their supposed limits. Leon Sapphire is already hard enough to handle. If he breaks through his limits under Janil's rune arts as well, the damage will be far beyond anything they predicted. So does he understand. Before the subordinate can ask for forgiveness, he is killed, and the king calls out Robin. If he followed his impulses, he'd break both of his legs right here, but he cannot afford to lose a mana user as skilled as him, so he will overlook it this once. Robin is deeply grateful for his boundless mercy, and the king says that the plan has changed for now, but they cannot afford any more delays. They should inform every soldier, as it is time to bring this long war to an end for the Vairava order. At the Leon family mansion in the capital of the Uhuana kingdom, a full day passed after they arrived at the Leon estate, and at last, Janil met Polin, who had just regained consciousness. The two of them were the only survivors of the ethos cult, and they sat together in a heavy, suffocating silence. In the end, the grief they had been holding back burst out in a violent manner. The despair and rage they felt turned into sharp blades that continued stabbing them every minute of their lives, and it will continue to do so, because this is what happened to him, to Van, as well. Leon approaches him, asking if he is feeling better now, and Van agrees. Thanks to his priests, he has fully recovered. Still, Leon thinks that this recovery speed is truly horrifying, and that mana recovery too is truly horrifying. Van is the same age as his daughter. Leon asks if Van could come with him for a bit if he does not mind, and Van agrees as they walk through the outside area. Leon notes that he and Janil have been talking about him. He happened to overhear his conversation with Kasorak as well. He is after a Kratos of the Zoe kingdom, right? He's the one he has been looking for, and his goal is to kill him. He is just an outsider who knows nothing about his life, but just being near him, he can tell that he is a man completely bound by hatred and sorrow. They go to the training grounds, Leon wondering if he truly understands how reckless the path he walks on is. Vaughn does not really care about that, so Leon puts it into perspective for him. The 6 great powers that rule the continent of Aten are as follows. Among these kingdoms, the one that still stands as the greatest superpower is the Zoe kingdom. Even among them, only top rune users can rise to the peak. The Royal Guard is made up of those who have awakened 3 or more runes. The one who commands the Royal Guard is the Grand Duke of the North, Akratos. To put it simply, he's one of the 5 strongest people on the continent, if not the top 3, and he's saying he's going to kill someone of that level? Does he truly realize the sheer mountain that he must climb? Van tells him that the height of the mountain does not matter to him. No matter how high it is, there is always a summit to reach, and this has nothing to do with him in the first place. Leon sighs. It is just as Janil said. No matter what he says, he will not change his mind, and if that is the case, there is no helping it. Suddenly he surges with mana and charges at Van, who dodges his strike and ends up in the air. Leon uses this opportunity to strike him from below, sending him slightly into the ground. Van slowly gets up, channeling his own mana, and wonders what the hell he is planning to do. Leon apologizes for the sudden attack. This might seem unreasonable, but he has to see with his own eyes whether he is truly capable of standing alone against the Zoe kingdom or not. Right here, he wishes to test him. Van gets angry and charges in. Van has already told him to stop sticking his nose in other people's business, but Leon dodges his strike and notes that once he gets older, one cannot help but meddle in other people's affairs just to feel involved. He strikes Van away once again, this time with much more power, not meaning to have done so, but his emotions just slipped out. However, he seems to be alright when he gets out of the rubble, and Van agrees that he will use this chance to show him just how annoying it is when someone barges into his life uninvited. Leon's daughter hears noise from the training ground. It is likely her father again. They have guests staying here, so can he not be quiet for once? She thinks it would be better to go yell at him, telling her pet Popo as such. Van summons his 8th sacred armament, the Lightning Fang, a longsword that can shift between 3 forms. Van notes that killing him would be a hassle, so he will just slice off his left arm lightly. The medics are always on standby anyway, so they can sew back what he cuts off. Leon feels incredible pressure. He's never felt anything like it, not even on a true battlefield. Van charges his blade with dark power, and they both charge at each other. At the same time, his daughter arrives just as Van strikes, the attack grazing Leon's shoulder, with the rest of the strike going through the roof. She is surprised to see that someone else is here, and Leon himself is shocked that it was not even a full power strike, and it was still that strong. How long has it been since his body last took a hit like that? He pulled his blow halfway, and that's the damage he did. He can see without a shadow of a doubt now that this boy is strong. However, that's when the daughter approaches and recognizes Van, who recognizes her back. She's that crazy employer of his. Judging by how foul-mouthed he is, she knows damn well that it's him, and she introduces him to Leon as the mana user. She told him about the mercenary who saved her from Merkel. Leon is surprised then that he has been incredibly rude to their great benefactor. He apologizes deeply, however, just so they are clear. If he ever gets any funny ideas about his daughter, or even shows a slight romantic interest in her, then Van tells him that will never ever happen, with Leon being a little confused by this. Is it really that impossible? Before they can banter more, a guard approaches, clearly afraid, and explains that he has an urgent report. The Argo Kingdom and the Bogura Kingdom are marching a massive army to attack at full force, shocking everyone inside the training grounds. 1 hour earlier, in the plains on the border between Uhuana and Bogura, it had become filled with corpses, old and new, young and old. At the Uhuana Kingdom camp, some of the knights couldn't believe that Argo just wouldn't quit. How many years has this stupid war dragged on? One of them said that, technically, the soldiers fighting are from the Bogura army. The other knight doesn't care. The commanders are all Argo practitioners. Bogura is basically Argo's vassal state at this point. It's the same with this damn war. Argo doesn't want to waste any of its own troops, so Bogura has to send theirs. All of them. This is Russell, a low-class 9 practitioner of the Uhuana Kingdom. Charlotte, another low-class 9 practitioner, tells him that it's probably how a small country like Bogura survives, right? The knight in the middle notes that this still feels weird to him. Normally, by now, things would have exploded into a full brawl, but the battle has been too quiet these days. This is Volkov, another low-class 9 practitioner. It is normal. There's no need to panic, right? Volkov asks if they already forgot the news about the Ethos cult getting wiped. Argo caused such a huge incident, and yet they've been completely silent. That is certainly not normal. Sharov asks if it's something like the calm before the storm, and Volkov agrees. There's a good chance of that. Russell is wondering how they even manage to communicate as a married couple when they think like this. Suddenly, a soldier approaches, as he has an urgent report. Both Argo and Bogura's armies are advancing on them together, and as for numbers, they have sent every single soldier. They are basically marching on them. Volkov tells Charlotte to get back to the capital right now. Volkov told her that he had an extremely bad feeling. They will hold them off as best they can, so she should go and reinforce Grand Duke Leon. At the Argo Kingdom camp, the soldiers were basically just undead. They may not be as powerful as living humans, but they are still overwhelming enough in sheer numbers. The practitioner who controls them is glad that this annoying war is finally coming to an end. They should see how long the Uhuana Kingdom lasts. This is a low-class 8 practitioner. Naturally, Leon gets wind of this and notes that he will be heading straight to the capital. They should not leave this mansion, no matter what, and stay put. With that, he leaves, and his daughter wonders why Van was fighting her father just now. While Van notes that he should be the one asking that, he suddenly said he wished to test him, and then just charged in and attacked him. The daughter looked a little wistfully into the distance and guessed he was thinking about Daryl once again. Van asks what she is talking about, but she says it's nothing. She apologizes for him. She's sure he didn't mean any real harm. Van says he's fine, and he will be heading back to his room, though she is a little surprised that they would ever meet again. Van goes to his accommodations and sits on the bed, thinking about the war. It is no wonder the entire household seems to be on edge, and the patriarch has to rush to the capital too. It is the perfect opportunity to drag Argo's spy out of hiding. He uses the gluttony manifestation to enter the hell world once again. Going to the torture chamber, he apologizes for keeping him waiting, and finally asks him some questions. The spy, who has fully fused with the horrifying spirits of the hell realm, tells him to just go to hell, or even worse, go to heaven in his case. At the outer city wall of the Uhuana Kingdom, the defense array that is holding the city safe suddenly stops, and a few practitioners stand above one of them. One of them laughs and says, "This is excellent. The defensive array covering the capital can barely be broken unless one does it from the inside." He asks the one who did it if she won't get caught, and she tells him not to worry too much. He laughs again. Only kidding. She really is too paranoid anyhow. By now, Labang and the others should have started their assault as well, so why don't they get started as well? With the grand festival of slaughter? Pascal approaches the old guy and notes that he's getting goosebumps. This is exactly why he hates working with this guy. But Olga tells him to get lost, as he reeks of sweat. The man laughs again and tells them that even if it moves, even if it's just a stone, they will crush it until there is nothing left. This is Juridan, a Class 8 practitioner of the Zoe Kingdom. Van notes that he looks a little better than before. He's really filled out a bit. He has something to ask of him. He heard Kasorak once say that there's a spy hiding inside of the Leon family. He wishes to know who that spy is. The man wonders how he even knows about that. Did he do something to Kasorak? Van confirms such. He killed him. The man is shocked. Kasorak pumped himself full of artificial mana to the absolute limit. He was almost Class 7. How did this monster pull something like that off? Vaughn tells him that if he tells him who the spy is, he will take him out of here and let him walk free. He promises so, but the man refuses. Does he think he is stupid? Like some demon bastard would really spare him just because he talked. Van got the information he wanted though, so he does know something about the spy, right? Honestly, he should be the one torturing him, but this time, he will hand the job over to someone else. Suddenly, Orphan approaches, with Virgetten surprised to see that she is still alive. Orphan wonders what is going on, and Van says that this is a gift for her since she was so depressed about not getting to tear up Kasorak's corpse. If they are talking about revenge, compared to Kasorak, this guy should be a much more precious present. But he is not giving him away for free. She has to squeeze info out of him about the Zoe Kingdom's spies hiding inside of the family. Orphan thought he was already dead, but Van notes that he went out of his way to keep him half dead, just to hand him over to her. Those are her negotiation tools. If Vargatan is about to die, Van will heal him with his own mana, so she should not worry and go wild. Orphan, seeing the grotesque things in front of her, hesitates for a moment, and then Van approaches, leaning down, asking why she is hesitating. She should listen carefully. That man is the enemy who slaughtered her entire family right in front of her. Has she already forgotten? The moment their hearts were pierced, the moment they all died without being able to say their goodbyes, the moment her younger siblings coughed up blood and died in agony, that mocking grin of his, her mortal enemy, as her family was wiped out, in that instant when she could not do anything at all, her own helplessness, all that rage, all that grief, all of that pain, has she truly forgotten all of them? Orphan falls to her knees, clutching her head, claiming that she hasn't, not even for a second, not even for a single heartbeat. Van pats her on the back and agrees she should remember it, every feeling from back then, every single memory. Then she should let it explode and pay them back 1,000-fold for the pain her family went through. This is righteous revenge, so there is nothing to feel guilty about, right? She should not lock herself inside some trashy moral code made up by hypocrites. Although for someone as green as her, it is probably hard, so he will be showing an example himself. She should watch closely and learn. Suddenly, the thing that was holding Vargatan in place changes and transforms into a torture bed that holds him in place and muffles him. Then, Vaughn tells him to hold still as he grabs one of the torture devices. If he moves, it will hurt a lot more. He will give him a chance to talk once every 6 hours, so he should think it over and decide carefully. Vargatan tries to say that he is going to talk right now, but Vaughn has absolutely no intention of listening to him. Vaughn begins his work like he's cutting up vegetables for a meal, doing so with expert precision, deciding what he should do next, and even testing the tools for himself, wondering which one will inflict the most pain. He does so again, and again, and again, and 6 hours later, when Orphan herself joins in, she is really beaming, noting that this is clean enough right now. She tells Van that she's cleaned all of the tools, and he thanks her for the trouble. They look at Vargatan, or what remains of him anyway, with Van noting that if he keeps being stubborn, he will die for real. If he confesses, Vaughn will just free him from the pain. Why won't he trust anyone's word, even a little? Vargatan pleads with him. He'll talk. He should just let him rest, and kill him already. Then Vargatan reveals the true identity of the spy. The royal palace of the Uhuana kingdom. The different nobles and knights are informed about the spy, and think that they must act at once. Just now, the entire defensive array around the capital was disabled. There are no signs of struggle, so someone from the inside must have shut it down. Only a handful of people even have access to the defense array. Leon damns it all. They screened for spies so harshly because they were afraid this might happen. So how did things end up like this? Suddenly, another knight bursts through the door, telling the Duke that the enemy forces have already broken in and started slaughtering civilians inside the capital. The entirety of it is up in flames. So, Juridan looks around, telling Olga that they will hold them off here. She should move according to the plan and make sure they do not sense her mana. Pascal wonders why he had to get paired up with this furball, and another soldier approaches, asking what his orders are right now. He laughs, asking what kind of question is that? What else would they do? They are going to kill every single thing that enters their field of view. Leon smacks the table, calling them cowards, and another knight notes that it seems they have walked right into their trap. Because of the drawn-out war against the two kingdoms, Uhuana has suffered massive losses. To make it worse, every last member of the royal family was assassinated, and even their allies, the Ethos cult, have been wiped out. At the moment when Uhuana is at its weakest, at the western border, once their main battlefield, they've thrown all of their troops at them to pin Uhuana's army down at the front line. Then, using the spy hidden inside, they secretly send special forces to punch through the capital. They will all be going to the border. The knights and nobles immediately disagree. That is way too reckless. They do not even know the enemy's exact numbers. Leon tells them that they should close the northern and southern gates immediately and lure them all the way to the east gate. They should use the west gate as an evacuation route for the citizens. For communications and status reports, Baron Saren is in command. Once the evacuation is complete, they should ring the cathedral bell 3 times. As soon as the evacuation ends, all forces in the capital are to reinforce the front line at the border. Even the knight next to him tells him that if they lose him, Uhuana will truly be finished. For his family's sake as well, he should reconsider this. Leon turns around, telling him that every citizen in this kingdom, is his family. As for his wife and daughter, he will leave them in his care. Calling out to Marquis Alex, he transforms and immediately rushes out of the window despite everyone's screams, landing right into the burning street. There are dogs who dare to insult the honor of Uhuana. They shall show themselves, as he will rip out their guts with his own hands. He roars loudly. The knight next to Juridan asks if he heard that. That must be Leon's Sapphire. Juridan has heard it, of course, just like expected. A responsible Grand Duke like him was bound to show up at a moment like this. All they have to do is pin Sapphire down, just like the plan. Now then, shall they enjoy the little play starring the Grand Duke of a doomed kingdom as the heroic father figure? This is his rune, the alchemical puppet with an unknown ability. Leon's own rune is that of the Azure Lion. Its ability is to burn mana to massively strengthen physical abilities. It grants him overwhelming power, endurance, regeneration, toughness, and speed that is akin to a lion, a legendary one at that. Thank you for watching. See you next time.